Chapter 649. Mom, they overtook us. Run. Hurry. After being overtaken by Yun Jian, Ding Yin's daughter, Tian Pei, couldn't accept it. Tian Pei buried herself in her mother's arms and struggled with all her might. Ding Yin herself wasn't convinced either. Hence, without Tian Pei's reminder, Ding Yin ran with all her might. However, the more she ran, the more strenuous it became. The further she ran, the greater the gravity on her feet. Before Ding Yin could regain her senses, another figure overtook her. Adam didn't run with all his might at first. He was carrying Xiao Yunzhu, so it could be considered easy. However, after Adam overtook Ding Yin, he began a chase after Yun Jian. However, Adam didn't dare to overtake Yun Jian. He only followed behind Yun Jian. What a joke! If the news of him overtaking young Madam were to spread to his young master one day, he would be killed. Moreover, if Adam really wanted to overtake Yun Jian, he felt that he couldn't because Yun Jian's running speed was abnormally fast. The sun shone down diagonally. The morning sunlight was very abundant. However, this 400-meter track seemed to be opened only for Yun Jian and Adam. Ding Yin ran with more and more difficulty. She gradually slowed down. Although she worked out in the gym all year round, Ding Yin's physical strength didn't increase. She might be a little stronger than some male parents, but her physical strength couldn't compare to Yun Jian and Adam. Seeing that Adam overtook her with Yunzhu in his arms, Tian Pei's missy temper immediately flared up. Ever since she was young, she had everything. She could get whatever she wanted. There was never anything that Tian Pei couldn't get. Moreover, after playing with Wang Ba for a long time, their personalities were more similar. Tian Pei started to throw a tantrum when she saw Adam carrying Xiao Yunzhu and easily catching up to Yun Jian. Tian Pei was held in Ding Yin's arms. She struggled desperately and cried, "No, I want to be first. I want to be first. I don't want to be overtaken by Yunzhu. I don't want to. Mom, hurry up, hurry up." As she spoke, Tian Pei used her sharp fingernails to grab Ding Yin's clothes. Ding Yin had been bragging at the beginning, but now that she had been surpassed by Yun Jian and Adam, her mood was already very complicated. In the end, when Tian Pei made such a fuss in her arms, Ding Yin's mood immediately worsened. "Tian Pei, stop right there. Stop messing around." Ding Yin immediately roared at Tian Pei. Tian Pei, who was startled by the roar, started to make a scene even more fiercely. Tian Pei had the personality of a rich young lady. At the same time, she was also very stubborn. Therefore, she hit and made a scene at Ding Yin. She did not care about her mother's ability at all. She was determined to achieve her goal. Ding Yin was originally still running, but when Tian Pei made such a fuss, she immediately became irritated. Moreover, Ding Yin was already very tired at this time. Her running speed became slower and slower, to the point that she was overtaken by countless male parents carrying their children. At this moment, Yun Jian and Adam had already rushed towards the finish line with Duan Li and Xiao Yunzhu in their arms. Upon closer inspection, there was not even a single drop of sweat on Yun Jian and Adam's faces. Duan Li and Xiao Yunzhu were very happy. They held hands and jumped in circles shouting, "We won," and other things like that. Yun Jian only smiled slightly. As for Ding Yin, when she reached the finish line while arguing with her daughter, she was already in the 20th place. As a result, the words that Ding Yin had boasted in front of all the parents were instantly proven true. Many parents hid in a corner and secretly laughed at her. Chapter 650. After the parents of the second graders finished competing, the first segment of the competition ended, and the morning competition came to an end. After the morning competition ended, Yun Jian, Lan Su, and Adam went to a nearby noodle restaurant for lunch. They ordered a bowl of pickled vegetable ramen. The pickled vegetable ramen was delicious. After Yun Jian and the other two finished their lunch and returned to Wanning E Elementary School, the afternoon competition began. Xiao Yunzhu and the others had lunch at school. There were 3 major competitions for the Parent and Child Sports Day. The first was the Parent and Child Sports Day, where the parents carried their children as they ran. This competition ended in the morning. The second competition had nothing to do with the parents. The second competition was between the students themselves. The third competition was between the parents and the other parents. The second competition was open to all students, and the parents could watch from the side. For this competition, there was a 20-meter distance. The students would jump back and forth using frog jumps to see who was faster and who scored higher. The scores were all calculated by the school, so it was absolutely fair. Yunjian brought Xiao Yunju and Duan Li to the queue to wait. Because the frog jumps were open to all students and only a few student scores could be registered at a time, it was more time-consuming. Therefore, the third competition for the parents was also held at the same time. Yunjian brought Xiao Yunju and Duan Li to the second round of frog jumps to register. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li said that they did not need her to accompany them. At this moment, Yunjian turned around and went to the third round of parent competitions with Adam. The afternoon sun was scorching. Lan Su was holding an umbrella and was sitting on the lawn looking into the distance. As she looked around, she spotted Yunjian out of the blue and broke into a smile with her usual icy face. At this moment, Yunjian had already walked forward. At the place where Lan Su was looking, Adam's figure appeared. She moved away without a trace. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li were standing beside a flower bed, waiting for the teacher to register. Both of them had sports number tags on their chests. At this moment, there were still many students in front of them who were participating in the frog jump. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li listened to Yunjian's words and held hands so that they wouldn't get separated. Duan Li blinked her adorable eyes. She stole a glance at Xiao Yunju and said, "Yunju, that man is so beautiful. Is he the sea you were talking about?" Children would ask whatever they thought of. Even though Xiao Yunju had called out to Adam as Big Brother Adam when they first met, Duan Li definitely wouldn't intentionally remember it. No, Big Brother C E is even better looking than Big Brother Adam. When Big Brother C E comes back, I'll definitely let you meet him, Xiao Yunju said. Oh, Duan Li blinked and nodded. At this moment, a beautifully dressed girl with many small braids on her head walked over. When the girl walked over, she walked up to Duan Li without saying a word. She reached out and pushed Duan Li to the ground. Duan Li and Xiao Yunju were originally holding hands because of Yunjian's words. However, when the girl pushed Duan Li, she fell and their hands broke. "What are you doing?" Xiao Yunju looked at Tian Pei, who had suddenly appeared in front of him. He suddenly felt a surge of anger and roared at Tian Pei. Who told you to beat me? You deserve it." Tian Pei spat at Xiao Yunju. Then, she scolded Duan Li, "You pitiful worm without a mother. You can only rely on others to win. Shame on you. Shameless." Tian Pei knew that she couldn't beat Yunju. Even Wang Ba from their class couldn't beat Yunju. Therefore, Tian Pei pushed Duan Li, who was closer to Yunju, away. Hearing Tian Pei's words, Duan Li lowered her head. Chapter 651. When Tian Pei was pushed to the ground by Xiao Yunju, she immediately started wailing. Tian Pei was a strong-willed girl. She didn't cry and just kept screaming. However, no one paid her any attention. Even the teachers didn't dare to step forward. Some of them pretended not to see Tian Pei screaming. After all, it was fine as long as the child didn't cry. The reason why the teachers didn't dare to step forward was because they had all seen what had happened during the competition. Tian Pei had yelled and screamed in her mother's arms when she hadn't gotten first place. She had even hit her own mother. To the teachers, this kind of student was the scariest. After all, if such a student went over to help, she might not be able to explain herself and might even hit the teachers. Xiao Yunju snorted at Tian Pei, who was pushed to the ground by him. He walked over to hold her hand and continued to line up. Xiao Yunju was actually quite strong. Back then, Wang Ba had a strong body and asked Xiao Yunju for candy. Later, Xiao Yunju refused to give it to him, and Wang Ba snatched it from him. In the end, Xiao Yunju pushed Wang Ba's fat body to the ground. Xiao Yunju was quite strong. Seeing that Yunju pushed her down and left, Tian Pei stopped yelling and could only get up on her own to join the queue with her tail between her legs. Yunjian and Adam arrived at the venue of the third event. The 3 events set up by Wanning E Elementary School were very interesting. The first event was a parent-child run. Parents and children participated in it together. The second event was a frog jumping competition between children and children. The third event was a hula hoop competition. This event was specifically targeted at parents. The school's intention was that as long as the children's competition was complete, the parents' entertainment couldn't be neglected. Moreover, this sports meet was prepared for the children and parents. Of course, it should be as fun as possible. Yunjian and Adam soon arrived at the venue of the third event. It was only when they arrived at the venue of the third event that Yunjian and Adam realized that the third event was hula hooping. Yunjian pursed her lips. She had learned a lot of things in her previous life, but she had never spun a hula hoop before. Although Yunjian knew how to play with hula hoops, she had never touched one before. To be honest, she didn't care about the kosher mercenaries and came to this place to play hula hoop. If Snake, Lizard, and the others knew about this, their jaws would probably fall off from laughing. Adam looked at the row of prepared hula hoops, pointed at himself, and asked Yunjian, young madam, can I get her to spin this for me? He didn't know what Lan Su was called, so he could only use she instead. No. Yunjian cast a sidelong glance at Adam and immediately rejected his words. What a joke, asking Lan Su to spin the hula hoop. Lan Su came from Yulong mainland. She probably didn't even know what a hula hoop was. How could she spin it? Adam swallowed his saliva, but he could only listen to Yunjian. He didn't forget how young master instructed him to listen to young madam's arrangements. If he dared to disobey, he would be waiting for the cruelest punishment from an Han organization. Yunjian and Adam each picked up a hula hoop. Ding Yin, who was standing not far away, happened to see this scene. She could tell at a glance that it was Yunjian and Adam's first time playing this. Therefore, before the competition started, Ding Yin walked over. As she walked, she sneered at Yunjian and Adam. Yo, is this your first time playing this? That's a pity. But coincidentally, I know how to play this, and I'm very familiar with it. Why don't I teach you? Chapter 652. While Ding Yin was speaking, Adam had already put the hoop on his head awkwardly. He put it down and hung it on his waist. This scene was strange no matter how one looked at it. As one of the 4 leaders of the Han organization, Adam, who could intimidate a large group of businessmen and politicians and make countless people bow down to him, was actually playing hula hoops here. If this were to be spread out, it would probably make others laugh until their teeth fell off. We don't know each other well. Yunjian glared at Ding Yin. She knew Ding Yin's motive. She wanted to see her make a fool of herself. Ding Yin had been watching her for a long time. If she couldn't see through Ding Yin's eyes, then her years as a secret agent in her previous life would have been for nothing. Ding Yin sneered at Yunjian in her heart when she heard Yunjian's words. However, she still had a smile on her face. Don't be like this. We're all classmates. I'm just helping you. You don't know how to play this. This is how it should be played. As she spoke, Ding Yin took the hula hoop off her head and placed it on her waist with one hand. Then, Ding Yin grabbed the hoop with both hands. She suddenly let go, and her waist started spinning with the hoop. Like this. Just spin it. Follow me, Ding Yin said in a disdainful tone. Then, she glanced at Yunjian from the side and said in disdain. Ding Yin's figure wasn't particularly slender. After giving birth, her figure had grown even more out of shape. Therefore, the way Ding Yin spun the hoop looked like she was secretly laughing. After all, the competition hadn't started yet. She was already spinning the hoop. Yunjian found it funny, but she didn't say it out loud. Parents, the competition is about to start. Please get ready. The teacher said. The competition was about to start. Xiao Yunju's parents were all ready. Because there was a limited number of hula hoop, the competition was a competition between the parents of each class. Of course, the final result would depend on who spun the most hoop. After Ding Yin was done showing off, she walked back to her place. She was about to turn into a hula hoop. Yunjian held the hula hoop with one hand. She stood still and did not move. When the teachers confirmed the parents' sports number tags again, the competition was about to begin. At this time, Yunjian grabbed the hula hoop and planned to put it on her head and waist like Adam, who had put it on his head and waist early in the morning. However, just as she raised the hula hoop before her hand could put it on her head, suddenly, Yunjian heard a soft chi sound from afar. What a familiar voice. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Adam was about to grab the hula hoop, but at the same time, he felt that something was wrong. The parents standing at the side did what they were supposed to do, as usual. Not long after Yunjian heard the soft sound, she suddenly raised the hula hoop in her hand and threw it into the air. The hula hoop seemed to be used as a shield by Yunjian. She swung the hula hoop very hard, but controlled it so that it did not hit the people around her. Ding-yin was standing on Yunjian's left. She screamed when Yunjian raised the hula hoop in the air. Ding-yin reacted quickly. She screamed and scolded Yunjian loudly. Why did you raise the hula hoop all of a sudden? Are you trying to scare me to death? Ding-yin's round hoop attracted the attention of all the parents around her. Just as Ding-yin finished speaking, a loud chi sound was heard. With a swoosh, a bullet that was hit by the hula hoop and stopped in its tracks fell in front of Yunjian. This scene was seen by many parents. Ding-yin also happened to see this scene. Then there was a dead silence. Everyone's heart sank. Yunjian's red lips moved slightly. There's a sniper. Run. Chapter 653. Although Yunjian had been reborn, she was now in frequent contact with the organizations from her previous life. She had even appeared to exterminate the Inferno Ring. As a result, her current identity might have attracted a lot of attention. She didn't expect to encounter a sniper here. After all, this was a public place. However, she couldn't rule out the possibility that some assassins and secret agents would deliberately kill people in public to clear their names. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Her reaction was the fastest. When they heard that there was a sniper, the parents standing in the distance didn't react. Even the group of parents standing near Yunjian, including Ding-yin, hadn't recovered from the shock. Sniper? To them, snipers were people who didn't have anything to do with their lives. To most ordinary people, assassins, secret agents, mercenaries, and special forces were all existences that were very far away from them. Perhaps in comparison, the existence of special forces was more relevant to their lives. Therefore, when Yunjian's words came out, most of the parents present, including the teachers, looked at the scene in front of them with confused expressions. It wasn't until Yunjian's voice came out again that most of the parents present came back to their senses. Run. If you don't want to die, find a place to hide. The word die rang the alarm bells of everyone present. At this time, the crowd was replaced by screams. Some of the parents with quick reactions didn't even verify whether it was true or not. They ran to the competition area where their children were at, grabbed their children, and hid. As for Ding-yin, who was slower to react, she stood there stupidly. She was so scared that she couldn't even lift her feet. Her legs were weak. What's going on? What's going on? There were still some teachers who hadn't sensed any danger at the scene. At this moment, they were rushing over righteously. They're going to kill someone. There's a gun. There's a bullet. Some parents ran past the teachers who were rushing over, shouting as they ran. When the words of the parents reached the ears of the teachers, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. At this time, the teachers looked straight ahead and saw Yunjian standing there with a bullet in her hand. It was said that rumors were the scariest. The truth could be said to be false, and the false could be said to be true. Regardless of whether it was true or not, the group of parents and teachers were all frightened. Some of them even ran away, not caring about the scene at all. Of course, most of the parents ran to where their children were. Other things could be ignored, but to most parents, their children were their lives. Ding-yin had been aggressive just a moment ago, but now she was so scared that her legs were weak and she sat on the ground as if paralyzed. She didn't even have the strength to move. Yunjian just glanced at Ding-yin and ignored her. Needless to say, Ding-yin was no threat to him at all. The person Yunjian wanted to deal with now was not a commoner like Ding-yin. Yunjian knew that the sniper in the distance was here to assassinate her, and the sniper's sniping distance was very far, so she couldn't aim with her pistol. The sniper in the distance would not stop shooting at her. More importantly, Yunjian believed that since someone wanted to assassinate her, the other party would definitely not send just one sniper, to assassinate her. Adam gun. In front of Ding Yin, Yun Jian stretched out her hand to Adam, who was standing behind her. It was now 1:30 in the afternoon, and the sun's rays were still shining on Yun Jian's body. The winter sun was not dry and hot. Yes, Adam very respectfully took out an undetectable Browning pistol from his belt and handed it to Yun Jian. Seeing Yun Jian suddenly grab the pistol, Ding Yin felt that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. Chapter 654. After Yun Jian took the gun, the sound of a sniper rifle could be heard from a distance where most people couldn't hear. A barrage of bullets rained down on where Yun Jian was like a barrage of cannons. Fortunately, the surrounding parents had already left the scene. Even Ding Yin had to crawl with both hands to hide in the bushes next to the flower bed in a sorry state. Ding Yin's reaction speed wasn't slow. She crawled and rolled and quickly hid in the bushes at the side of the flower bed. When Ding Yin looked back after hiding herself, she happened to see Yun Jian pouncing on the ground. She shifted her body to the left and right like someone who knew martial arts in the movies, easily avoiding the bullets. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The murderous intent in her eyes was obvious. Ding Yin clearly saw Yun Jian roll to avoid the sniper rifle. She was so scared that she covered her head and almost lost her courage. Yun Jian was so powerful. She was so powerful. Ding Yin was scared half to death. Adam also dodged to the side. Because the target of the bullet was Yun Jian, Adam only brushed past her. There wasn't a sniper aiming at him. Therefore, Adam's movement to dodge the bullet was very small. Just as Adam was about to step forward to help Yun Jian suddenly felt that something was wrong. She yelled at Adam, "Adam, go find my brother." Today, she didn't think too much about it. She came to Xiao Yunju's school's parent-child sports day. The first event was over. The second and third events were held at the same time. The students and parents were separated. Yun Jian suddenly had a bad feeling. She could not take care of her younger brother now. The ones who had a grudge against her now were the remnants of Inferno Ring and the mysterious person that Job mentioned. Although the Inferno Ring was destroyed and Job was dead, she learned from Job that the mastermind behind the Inferno Ring wasn't Job, but a mysterious person. Yun Jian had no way of knowing who this mysterious person was, but Job's Taijin gang had not been eliminated yet. Since the Inferno Ring had captured Xiao Yunju in her past life, they must have known about her and Xiao Yunju. This was what Yun Jian was most worried about. This group of snipers clearly knew that they would not be able to kill him. Could it be that their target was Xiao Yunju? Just thinking about it made Yun Jian's heart turn cold. She would never allow Xiao Yunju to be captured by her again. Absolutely not. Yes, Adam replied. Then, he turned around and ran toward Xiao Yunju and the others. The scene was already a mess. Some parents were frightened and ran into the school building, cafeteria, and other places to wait for help. Most of the parents took their children and hid in the flower beds, not daring to make a sound. The snipers did not intend to kill the parents or children in the school, but they caused a lot of chaos. After Yun Jian dodged the barrage of bullets from the snipers, she took advantage of the time when the snipers were reloading their sniper rifles to run toward Xiao Yunju like a rocket. Seeing that there was no danger, Ding Yin crawled out of the flower beds. She was trembling, but she still hid behind the crowd and chased after Yun Jian. Ding Yin's daughter, Tian Pei, was in the same place as Xiao Yunju, so Ding Yin and Yun Jian ran together. Adam ran to the place where Xiao Yunju and Duan Li were playing with frogs. Yun Jian was right behind him. "Miss, Yunju is over there. He was taken away by a strange uncle. Hurry up and save him." Yun Jian had just arrived when Duan Li ran over. Duan Li's small body was trembling, but she suppressed her fear and told Yun Jian the whole story clearly. Chapter 655. Sure enough, this group of people's target was her brother. Yun Jian suddenly felt a surge of anger. Yun Jian knew that if her brother was kidnapped by this group of people again, it would be the same as in her previous life. The scene of her brother's death in her previous life appeared in her mind once again. Yun Jian suddenly became angry. She did not wait for Duan Li to finish speaking and rushed towards the man in black who was holding Xiao Yunju at the entrance. Ding Yin ran over and easily found Tian Pei, who was hiding in the corner. She was so scared that she did not even know who she was. She pulled Tian Pei into her arms and hid in the corner as she watched Yun Jian rush towards the man who was trying to kidnap Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian's figure was faintly discernible under the afternoon sun. Her long hair flowed elegantly, giving off a kind of gentle beauty. However, this was not what people were concerned about. As Yun Jian ran, she conveniently hid the Browning pistol that Adam gave her into the pocket of her loose track pants. The belt of her track pants was loose. Yun Jian did not even need to lower her head to hide the Browning pistol in her pocket. Then, she took out the butterfly knife that she always carried with her from her pocket. Because she was afraid that the gun would hurt Xiao Yunju, Yun Jian did not plan to use a gun at all. Yun Jian opened the butterfly knife. She bit the butterfly knife by her mouth and ran forward with both hands. This butterfly knife was newly bought by Yun Jian. It was different from the one she used to destroy the Inferno Ring. Yun Jian had already thrown away the butterfly knife that she picked out from the army. This was because the previous butterfly knife was stained with the blood of the Inferno Ring. Usually, after Yun Jian killed someone with a butterfly knife, she would change it. This was because she felt that a knife stained with other people's blood was not clean. However, the knife in Yun Jian's hand was new. Therefore, she was not afraid that it would be dirty when she bit it. Yun Jian bit the butterfly knife. She ran with both hands, and her speed was several times faster than running with the butterfly knife. Everyone who stood afar, Ding Yin, Tian Pei, Wang Ba's mother, Duan Li, Adam who stood where they were, and Lan Su who came later, saw her sprinting like the wind. This was probably the fastest running speed Yun Jian had ever run in her life. Yun Jian continued to walk forward. Her eyes were glowing red and filled with murderous intent. Even the man who was carrying Xiao Yunju sensed it. She bit the knife in her mouth. Isn't she afraid of swallowing it? What's she trying to do? A group of people who had hidden themselves were watching Yun Jian as if they were watching a show once they were in hiding. At this moment, a series of sniper rifle bullets could be heard. The people hiding in the surroundings immediately shut their mouths, not daring to make a sound. However, they also realized that the bullets were all aimed at Yun Jian. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She bit the butterfly knife, rolled forward twice, jumped up, and continued to chase after the man. The sniper rifle continued to fire. Even some of the parents who were hiding and watching the situation could see it. This group of snipers' target was Yun Jian. Yun Jian's action of rolling to avoid the bullets stunned everyone present. After all, no one dared to compete with bullets in terms of speed. However, Yun Jian dared. Not only did she dare, but she also dared to chase after someone under the sniper's fire. Yunju was taken away by the bad uncle. She deserves it. It's best if she dies. Suddenly, a girl's voice came from afar. Although Yun Jian was running, she heard it clearly. The voice came from Tian Pei. Chapter 656. Tian Pei's voice was loud and clear. It was the kind of voice that could be heard by most of the people present. This included Yun Jian, who was still dodging the sniper's bullets and chasing after the man who wanted to kidnap Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian's eyes darkened when she heard Tian Pei's voice. If Xiao Yunju heard Tian Pei's voice, even though Xiao Yunju said that he didn't care, Yun Jian knew that he definitely cared. When that happened, she would be depressed and sad. In her previous life, when Yun Jian found Xiao Yunju, his biological parents were already dead. Xiao Yunju was an orphan at that time. To Xiao Yunju, saying that he didn't have parents was worse than saying that he was stupid. Moreover, Tian Pei even cursed Xiao Yunju. She said that she wanted to kidnap Xiao Yunju's man and beat Xiao Yunju to death. In her previous life, the scene of Xiao Yunju's head being cut off surfaced in Yun Jian's mind. Yun Jian was furious and ran faster. The sniper's bullets rained down on Yun Jian. Yun Jian was attacked from behind, but she dodged left and right. In just a few seconds, she had caught up with the man from a distance of tens of meters. Oh my God! That little girl is running too fast, and she's running through bullets. I feel like I'm watching a movie. This doesn't make sense. Some of the parents who had hidden themselves began to chatter incessantly. Of course, there were still some who were afraid, but it was much less than before. Therefore, most of the parents had already realized that these snipers were only targeting Yunjian. At this moment, it had only been 20 seconds since Yunjian saw the man and chased after him. "I'll go help." Adam frowned and was about to go forward. Although Yunjian was quite skilled, if Yunjian lost a strand of hair in front of him, Adam estimated that he would appear in the Amazon forest next week. The Amazon forest was a tropical forest where poisonous insects, snakes, and scorpions coexisted. It was the largest forest in the world. There were many types of flora and fauna there. It was known as the world's flora and fauna kingdom. However, if a person was thrown there, his life would be in danger at any time. Adam only remembered that when he and Imo-san were training, they were thrown into the Amazon forest by CE to fend for themselves. He had almost lost his life a few times before he was able to train to this level. Although Adam wouldn't lose his life there, if he really let Yunjian get hurt in front of him, he estimated that he would appear in the Amazon forest next week. Moreover, he didn't prepare any tools for him and went into battle alone. Adam dared to guarantee that their young master would definitely do this for Yunjian. No need. Lan Su suddenly reached out and stopped Adam from moving forward. She said she can do it herself. She was the witch god of Yulon continent. How could she not be able to handle such a small matter? Just as Lan Su's voice fell, a voice rang out. Yunjian was already right in front of the man. She pounced forward, under everyone's gaze. As she pounced forward, she extended her leg and kicked horizontally. At the same time, her mouth loosened and the butterfly knife in her mouth fell to the ground. Before the butterfly knife fell to the ground, she easily caught it with her right hand. She pounced forward again. When a man saw this, he was so scared that he quickly turned his head. However, Yunjian's explosive speed couldn't be underestimated. She was engulfed in anger. The hand holding the butterfly knife turned along with the man's head. Chapter 657. The man who was carrying the unconscious Xiao Yunju was clearly quite capable. Judging from his skills, he did not look like a second-rate killer. He could at least be considered a high-level killer. A high-level killer could kill 50 normal people. This was because a high-level killer standard was similar to an advanced special forces soldiers. Of course, the advanced special forces soldiers here did not refer to people like Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan who had earned the title because of Yunjian, but those who were truly capable. However, Chu Ning and the rest would become advanced special forces soldiers with real capabilities sooner or later. Usually, an official member of the advanced special forces who had undergone the most brutal training could take on 50 normal people alone. It was definitely not an exaggeration. However, such an existence had been killed on the spot by Yunjian with a stab to his temple. Leaving these profound questions aside, just the fact that Yunjian had killed someone was enough to scare everyone present out of their wits. Seeing someone kill someone in their imagination was definitely not as intense and shocking as seeing it in real life. Something like this had happened right in front of them, and the killer was the sister of their child's classmate from the same school. This feeling was definitely not as intense as they had imagined. After Yunjian killed the man, she carried Xiao Yunju back from the man's shoulder before he fell to the ground. Xiao Yunju had been knocked out by the man and was unconscious at the moment. After Yunjian carried Xiao Yunju, she did not even want the butterfly knife and retreated quite a distance from where she stood. Just as Lan Su reached out to stop Adam from helping Yunjian, Lan Su and Adam had already disappeared from where they were. No one present knew what Lan Su and Adam had gone to do, and no one wanted to find out. Yunjian hid behind a flower bed where the sniper could not aim. She checked Xiao Yunju from left to right and found that Xiao Yunju was only knocked out and was not a hindrance. It wouldn't affect the brain either. Just as Yunjian flashed in the flower bed with Xiao Yunju, the crowd had already exploded. Kill, 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 they're killing people. Someone was so frightened that he was trembling with fear, shouting and yelling at the same time. Then a large group of female parents screamed in fright. For a moment, the whole place was in an uproar. After all, everyone present was a parent, and most of them were female. The male parents had already gone to work. 4 parent-child sports events. Most of them were female parents. However, when they saw such a bloody scene, the group of female parents were so scared that they were trembling. Even their necks were trembling. Yunjian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed. "Miss, how is Yunju? Is he okay?" Just as Yunjian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed, Duanli had already rushed over from the other side. Yunjian frowned. She didn't see Lan Su and Adam, but she knew that they must have gone to deal with the sniper in the distance. So when Duanli ran over, Yunjian didn't stop her. "Chestnut, look after Xiao Zhu for me." Yunjian gently moved Xiao Yunju's head to Duanli's calf. "Okay." Duanli nodded heavily. Yunjian walked out of the flower bed. She walked over to the dead man's temple and pulled out the butterfly knife in front of the group of parents who were shivering and looking at her. Then, she walked towards Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Ding Yin and Tian Pei saw the scene just now and were already squatting on the ground, trembling in fear. Both of them were indescribably terrified when they saw Yunjian coming over. Swish! Suddenly, Yunjian threw out the butterfly knife. "Ah!" Ding Yin and Tian Pei screamed at the same time. Chapter 658. Ding Yin and Tian Pei had been squatting in the flower bed, not daring to come out. The butterfly knife that Yunjian had thrown out had hit the ground right in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, only a short distance away from their feet. The butterfly knife was still stained with the blood of the dead man, which had yet to coagulate. Now that the butterfly knife had been thrown by Yunjian in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, it had sunk 3 inches into the ground. This scene alone was enough to send chills down the spines of onlookers. Needless to say, the parties involved, Ding Yin and Tian Pei, must be terrified right now. Mommy has blood. Whoa. Tian Pei's original stubborn temper had turned pale with fright at the scene in front of her. She howled loudly, trembling all over, tears streaming down her face. If Tian Pei had the arrogance of a young lady at the beginning, then now she had lost all her dignity. She had even broken through her stubbornness, and her tears had even fallen. She was clearly terrified. Ding Yin was also scared half to death. How could she still care about her daughter Tian Pei? Ding Yin was trembling all over. She and Tian Pei huddled together, not even daring to breathe loudly, afraid that Yunjian would pull out the butterfly knife and stab it into their temples, just like the man who had just been killed. Yunjian only smiled contemptuously at Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Then she strode forward, grabbed Tian Pei's collar, and pulled her out of Ding Yin's arms. What are you doing?" Seeing her daughter being pulled away, Ding Yin could no longer stay still. She hurriedly tried to pull her daughter Tian Pei back. Yunjian kicked Ding Yin away mercilessly. She grabbed Tian Pei's collar and looked at Tian Pei's tear-stained face. Yunjian recalled the way Tian Pei had cursed Xiao Yunju just now. "You just said that my brother is a fatherless child and told him to kill my brother. Yunjian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. At this moment, her murderous aura was so oppressive that even the adults present did not dare to say anything, let alone Tian Pei. Wah! Tian Pei was frightened by Yunjian's words. She had no choice but to use her trump card, crying. "Pa!" Yunjian grabbed Tian Pei's collar with one hand and slapped Tian Pei's face with the other. Yunjian did not care that Tian Pei was still a child. After slapping her, she raised her voice and growled. "Why are you crying? Weren't you very powerful just now? Answer me." If Tian Pei scolded her, Yunjian would not treat her like this. But what did she say? She actually cursed Xiao Yunju to die. The word die was taboo for Yunjian, especially when he cursed Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju had died once, which made Yunjian cherish him even more. At the same time, she could not bear to see others scolding him. Tian Pei was scolded until she could only sob. The slap on her face was burning, but she did not dare to say a word. At this moment, A sharp siren was heard from outside the school. Not long after, a few police cars stopped there one after another. More than 10 policemen got out of the cars with batons in their hands. The leader of the group was a police officer from the police station near Wanning Elementary School. He heard gunshots from nearby residents, so he immediately rushed over. What happened? What happened? The police officer's surname was Wu. Officer Wu's eyelids twitched when he saw the dead man. When Ding Yin saw the police, she quickly took Tian Pei back from Yun Jian's arms. Then, she pointed at Yun Jian and shouted at Officer Wu. She killed someone. She even wanted to kill my daughter. She's crazy. Take her away. Hurry up and shoot her. Yun Jian sneered. At this moment, Officer Wu walked to Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and raised his voice. What happened? Yun Jian glanced at Officer Wu. She took out a document from her pocket and handed it to Officer Wu. Chapter 659. Officer Wu was a police officer from the police station near Wanning Elementary School. Perhaps Officer Wu was one of the higher-ranking officers in his station, but his status was nothing compared to the entire Longmen City. Officer Wu was usually high and mighty in the police station as well. After all, he was one of the more powerful officers in his station. In spite of that, he dared not even fart when he met his superiors. Yun Jian's Team Monarch, on the other hand, had only become famous recently. Officer Wu was in this line of work, so it was only natural that he had heard of Team Monarch's reputation. Team Monarch's reputation had only spread recently. In the beginning, Team Monarch had only completed a mission that even the advanced special forces found difficult. In their second mission, Team Monarch had even managed to retrieve the antique stolen by International God in the shortest time possible. These two missions had cemented Team Monarch's identity and promoted them to advanced special forces in the shortest time possible. When Team Monarch was still an advanced special forces candidate, they had completed 2 major missions in the shortest time possible within a few months and were promoted to advanced special forces directly by their superiors. Advanced Special Forces was an honor that some people could not attain even after decades of hard work. It was rumored that the honor of Team Monarch's Advanced Special Forces was earned by Slashing God of Team Monarch. More importantly, the internationally renowned assassin organization, Inferno Ring, which was second only to an Hun group and Kosha mercenaries, was annihilated by Slashing God of Team Monarch. Although it was unknown how Slashing God of Team Monarch knew an Hun group and Kosha mercenaries, the rumor had shocked everyone when it got out. In other words, there was no one who was not surprised. After all, Slashing God of Team Monarch was only an underage girl according to the rumor. What Officer Wu did not expect was that Slashing God of Team Monarch, who was rumored in his station, Longmen City, the entire Zhe province, Country Z, and even internationally, would appear before him. Oh my God! Smack! Officer Wu looked up at Yun Jian, and the document in his hand fell to the floor. Putting aside the fact that Yun Jian was Slashing God that had already spread to the international police force and the underworld, the fact that Yun Jian was the Yun Jian subordinate was enough to overwhelm Officer Wu. Yun Jian smiled faintly at Officer Wu's reaction and bent down to pick up her document, patting the dust off and saying faintly, "You've dirted my document." Officer Wu's heart clenched when he heard Yun Jian's voice again. Officer Wu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he found that he couldn't say anything. Ding Yin couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged Tian Pei, who had already begun to cry, and shouted at Officer Wu again, "You're the police." Team Monarch, Slashing God. Since you're the police, how can you protect her? She had killed someone. Princes are punished the same as commoners if they break the law. Even high-ranking officials can't do as they please. Why can't she be executed for killing someone? Ding Yin had long detested Yun Jian. Moreover, Yun Jian had treated her daughter like that just now. She even had the urge to kill Yun Jian. Yun Jian turned her gaze to Ding Yin again when she heard what she said. Chapter 660. At this moment, Officer Wu wanted to strangle Ding Yin. He resisted the urge to strangle Ding Yin and nodded to Yun Jian. Can you explain what's going on? Officer Wu was at least 3 times older than Yun Jian. However, He was addressing Yunjian as an elder. The surrounding police officers, including the parents who were hiding in the flower bed, were all dumbfounded. When Officer Wu appeared, he looked mighty and domineering, and everyone present saw it. But how long had it been? Yunjian had only given Officer Wu a short time to show him her ID, and Officer Wu was so polite to Yunjian. This was illogical. At this moment, not only were the policemen who came with Officer Wu stunned, but also the parents and teachers who were hiding to watch the show but didn't dare to come out were all dumbfounded. Yunjian pursed her lips and squinted her eyes. Her delicate face attracted everyone's attention. Yunjian knew that if she didn't explain herself, it wouldn't matter to her. However, her brother was studying at Wanning Elementary School, and he still needed to be a person. Yunjian could cut off her own path, but she would never allow her brother to cut off his future because of her. The dead man is a killer. You all saw what happened just now. A sniper tried to assassinate me and even tried to cause a riot. Yunjian's explanation was simple. Killer? That man was a killer? All the parents, including Ding Yin and Officer Wu, felt their hearts skip a beat when they heard what Yunjian said. That fear was innate. How can you say that he's a killer? He's just a human trafficker. Do you think you're a piece of gold? Did he kidnap your brother just to threaten you? Who do you think you are? Do you need their threats? You just want to clear your name. Ding Yin didn't let go. In fact, Ding Yin wanted to tell Yunjian to die immediately. Can you show evidence that the dead man is a killer? Otherwise, it will be difficult for us. Officer Wu was also in a difficult position. He looked at Yunjian and said, although Yunjian was a member of the Advanced Special Forces, she had killed someone in public. If she did not explain herself clearly to everyone present, this matter would not end just like that. After all, no one had the right to kill in public, even if Yunjian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Of course, if Yunjian had killed an assassin with her identity as an ASF soldier, not only would she not be arrested, but she would also be rewarded greatly. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She also knew that Officer Wu was in a difficult position. Yunjian lifted her beautiful legs and walked towards the dead man. Seeing this, Officer Wu and the others also stepped forward. Ask your man to show the back of his hand, Yunjian said to Officer Wu, pointing at the deceased. Yunjian was now 90% sure that this man was from the Inferno Ring. Although the Inferno Ring had been eradicated, and even the remaining forces had been wiped out. However, Yunjian did not think that there was nothing left of the Inferno Ring. Moreover, the Taijin gang had not been wiped out. Moreover, the Inferno Ring's method of kidnapping her brother in her previous life was the same as it was now. Officer Wu waved his hand. Immediately, a policeman stepped forward and tore open the back of the dead man's hand. Then, a golden rose was printed on the back of the man's hand. It was extremely eye-catching. This is... Officer Wu pointed at the back of the man's hand and turned to ask Yunjian. Chapter 661. The Inferno Ring's people have a golden rose on their back. This is not something an outsider can imitate. If you don't believe me, you can check it out in the underworld. I believe you'll be able to find the results very quickly. Yunjian crossed her arms and stood there looking at Officer Wu. It was no longer a secret that the Inferno Ring's people had a golden rose on their back. Anyone in the underworld would know about it. That was why Yunjian dared to say it. Officer Wu was afraid of pressuring Yunjian, so he turned to one of his subordinates and said, "Go check it out immediately. Verify if the information is accurate." There was nothing he could do. Even if Officer Wu wanted to cover up for Yunjian, Yunjian was the one who killed someone in public first. This matter had to be dealt with carefully. "Sorry, I'm afraid I'll have to make you wait," Officer Wu said to his subordinate, then turned to face Yunjian respectfully. The Inferno Ring's people actually appeared here, and it was obvious that they were here to take revenge on Yunjian. From this, it seemed that the fact that Yunjian led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was true. Officer Wu felt a chill run down his spine and swallowed his saliva. The killing god who led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was here. How could he not be frightened? What kind of existence was the Inferno Ring? It was the world of assassins, and Yunjian led a team to destroy them. What are you waiting for? Even if this man is an assassin, so what? She killed someone. This is an ironclad fact. She's just an ordinary girl, and she can kill people. What can she do in the future? You police officers should arrest her immediately and handcuff her hands first. She's a murderer. What if she runs away? Ding Yin saw that Officer Wu was biased towards Yunjian. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth and pointed at Yunjian. She looked like she really wanted the police to arrest Yunjian immediately and interrogate her. Shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll arrest you first. Officer Wu was a police officer. As a police officer, he had his own judgment. Now that he heard Ding Yin ordering him in front of him again and again, he felt as if he had lost control of himself. She was not his superior. Moreover, she was just an ordinary parent. How could she order the police around? Officer Wu couldn't take it anymore and yelled at Ding Yin. You. Ding Yin was a respectable lady both at home and outside. She had never been scolded like this before, so she was so scared that she shrank back. Are you still a police officer? Aren't the people's police supposed to serve the people? Now that she's killed someone in front of us, you should arrest her. I'll take her to the police station and give her a good beating. Let's see if she'll confess. There's no need to say so much nonsense. Ding Yin continued to instruct Officer Wu as if she was reasonable. However, no matter how many people present heard Ding Yin's words, they were all extremely displeased. You, a woman like you, is incurable. Officer Wu pointed at Ding Yin and shouted bitterly. However, what he said was what many people present were thinking. Who would arrest someone to extort a confession without first making things clear? That was a criminal law that only existed in ancient times. For a moment, Officer Wu hated Ding Yin. Reporting, we have the results. Officer Wu's subordinate had already closed the walkie-talkie and walked back and shouted to Officer Wu. What's the result? Officer Wu asked. Chapter 662. To be honest, Officer Wu breathed a sigh of relief when the person spoke. If the dead man was not an assassin, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. In addition to the incitement of the parents around them, Yunjian would really be sent to jail. After all, even if she was a Special Forces soldier, she would be treated the same as an ordinary person. After all, there's an old saying that a prince would be punished the same as a commoner if he broke the law. In spite of this, Yunjian was Gu Yunjian's woman, and she was also Slashing God of Team Monarch. Now that Slashing God of Team Monarch's name was known all over the world, the members of Team Monarch were famous as well. As for the 10 teams of advanced special forces who went with Yunjian to take out Inferno Ring, they had been recruited by major international criminal police forces or reputable people. The province's military had been raised several notches as well. All of this was thanks to Yunjian. Officer Wu had heard of Yunjian's name before, which was why he was so fearful of her. In spite of it, Ding Yin did not know Yunjian's identity. Ding Yin did not know what Inferno Ring was, nor did she know what Team Monarch was, let alone who Slashing God was. That was why Ding Yin incited her again and again. There were many parents like Ding Yin present. They did not know that Officer Wu's claim that Yunjian was Team Monarch's Slashing God meant that she was an advanced Special Forces soldier. Everyone present even thought that Yunjian was merely Xiao Yunju's elder sister, the parent of an ordinary student in Wanning Elementary School. To Ding Yin and the others, perhaps they did not know what Team Monarch and Inferno Ring represented. However, if Longmen City's Falcon Hall was mentioned, everyone present would probably know about it. Falcon Hall was the top mafia group in Longmen City. In spite of this, the people present did not know that Inferno Ring and Falcon Hall were incomparable. Perhaps in the eyes of those who did not know, Falcon Hall was more threatening than Inferno Ring. In fact, those who knew the truth knew that Falcon Hall and Inferno Ring could not be compared at all. The Inferno Ring was an international assassin organization. That was an ironclad fact. Falcon Hall, on the other hand, was merely the biggest mafia group in Longmen City. It was nothing outside of Longmen City, Zhe Province, and even Country Z. Since the matter has been investigated clearly, you can go now. Officer Wu said respectfully to Yunjian. Advanced Special Forces soldiers had the right to be hands-off, as long as the matter was not too complicated and she did not commit a serious crime like murder. The document in her hand was enough for her to clear her name and leave directly. This was the reason why Yunjian had agreed to join the Advanced Special Forces with Good Junjian. What? Leave? She just threatened my daughter and killed someone. Why should she leave? The clueless Ding Yin had no idea that Yunjian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Therefore, when she heard that Officer Wu was going to let Yunjian go, she immediately shouted. Even if the person she killed was a criminal who deserved to die, she still killed someone. She's just a normal person. She'll be jailed for at least a few days if she kills someone. Moreover, it's hard to guarantee that she won't kill innocent people. Why should she leave? Ding Yin continued to shout, even blocking Yunjian's path to prevent Yunjian from leaving. Why? Because she's an Advanced Special Forces soldier. She killed an unpardonable assassin. This is the duty of the Advanced Special Forces. Tell me, why should she? Officer Wu shouted back at Ding Yin. Chapter 663. Advanced Special Forces? Part of their job? The parents who were hiding in the flower bed were all stunned when they heard that. Most of the people present had heard of the Advanced Special Forces. Even if they did not know about the Advanced Special Forces, at least there would not be anyone present who did not know what the Special Forces were. Advanced Special Forces? That's the Special Forces. Usually, only the military would have Special Forces, and every Special Forces soldier had absolute strength. Even an ordinary Special Forces soldier could be so powerful, let alone a Special Forces soldier with the word advanced in front of it. Everyone present was stunned. What? Advanced Special Forces soldier? Ding Yin's grip on Tian Pei loosened. When she first heard that, she was so shocked that Tian Pei almost fell to the ground. Ding Yin remembered that one of her husband's friends was a Special Forces soldier. Back then, that Special Forces soldier had bragged in front of her husband. In fact, her husband was quite envious of him, and even said that he would laugh in his dreams if he could really become a Special Forces soldier. That Special Forces soldier had not only bragged in front of Ding Yin's husband, he had also bragged in front of Ding Yin. He had even mentioned the Advanced Special Forces soldier and bragged that he knew an Advanced Special Forces soldier. It was from that person that Ding Yin learned about the Advanced Special Forces. They were a group of people who were many times more powerful than the Special Forces soldiers. Even Ding Yin's husband's friend, the Special Forces soldier, was proud that he knew an Advanced Special Forces soldier. It was obvious how powerful the identity of an Advanced Special Forces soldier was. And now, Officer Wu was saying that Yunjian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier in front of so many people. Even if Officer Wu was lying, even if he was spouting nonsense, he would never lie in front of everyone and say that Yunjian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. After all, it was not easy to lie like this. That meant that Yunjian was really an Advanced Special Forces soldier. So can I leave now? Yunjian narrowed her eyes and raised her brows slightly. She didn't want to reveal her identity, but things had happened so suddenly that she had killed a member of the Inferno Ring. Xiao Yunju would still study at Wanning E Elementary School in the future, and if she did not reveal her identity, these parents would automatically label her as a murderer. Even if Officer Wu knew that she was not, these parents would at least warn their children to stay away from Xiao Yunju because his sister was a murderer. Yunjian didn't want Xiao Yunju to bear all this. She wanted Xiao Yunju to grow up happily. If Yunjian revealed her identity as an Advanced Special Forces soldier, none of the parents present would think of Yunjian as a murderer. This was the difference between an ordinary person killing someone who should have been killed and an Advanced Special Forces soldier killing someone who should have been killed. If the Advanced Special Forces killed an assassin, the people present would only think that Yunjian was amazing and was serving the people. If Yunjian was just an ordinary person, then there was a problem. Why would an ordinary person like her kill someone? In everyone's eyes, this could only be described as abnormal. That's enough. Let's go. Officer Wu nodded quickly. Yunjian nodded. She didn't even look at Ding Yin and her mother, as she turned and walked toward Xiao Yunju. Officer Wu ignored Ding Yin as well and quickly led his team to clean up the scene. Ding Yin stood where she was dumbfounded. "Io, you idiot!" Just as Ding Yin was still dumbfounded, Wang Ba's mother saw that the surroundings had calmed down and guessed that the police must have eliminated the snipers. She pulled Wang Ba out and stood in front of Ding Yin. "What's wrong?" Ding Yin was already upset, so she asked Wang Ba's mother indifferently. Chapter 664. Wang Ba's mother was truly regretting it now. She regretted provoking Yun Jian. No matter how she thought about it, she would never have guessed that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director. In fact, Wang Ba's mother regretted it when she went against Yun Jian back then. After all, it was Wang Ba who snatched Xiao Yunju's candy first. Just because of such a trivial matter, New Cruise stopped selling cars to their family in the future. Wang Ba's mother's regret was not something a normal person could understand. Moreover, many imported cars and even limited edition sports cars were only available in New Cruise. Wang Ba's mother could forget about it. Even if other car marketing companies had imported cars and Wang Ba's mother's family could purchase cars from other car dealerships, what about limited edition sports cars? Although Wang Ba's mother's family could not afford limited edition sports cars, at least they could go to New Cruise to see how limited edition sport cars looked like if they did not provoke Yun Jian. However, if they provoked Yun Jian, they would not even be able to enter New Cruise's entrance. Wang Ba's mother had experienced the feeling deeply, so she was helpless. That was why Wang Ba's mother spoke to Ding Yin with the tone of an experienced person. It was too late. When Wang Ba's mother came to speak to her just now, Ding Yin did not seem bothered at first. However, after hearing what Wang Ba's mother said, Ding Yin's eyes widened and she shouted almost at the same time, "What? New Cruise's director? Who in Longman City did not know about New Cruise? Who did not know about New Cruise's director?" It was the company that held Country Z's biggest auto show the first time it was listed and rose to fame overnight. Now, it was the most famous company in the country. Such a company was actually Yun Jian's. This. Ding Yin's mother's hands went limp from the shock, and she almost fainted. Tian Pei, who was in Ding Yin's arms, was thrown to the ground because of the latter's weak grip. Tian Pei howled in pain. Tian Pei was still a child, but the fall would hurt for a few days at least. Of course, this was all Ding Yin's fault and had nothing to do with Yun Jian. Yun Jian had just returned to the flower bed where Xiao Yunju and Duan Li were, when she saw that Xiao Yunju had already woken up while rubbing his small eyes. Duan Li had been protecting the unconscious Xiao Yunju. She only started chatting with Xiao Yunju when he woke up. Seeing Yun Jian coming over, Duan Li became even more excited and shouted at Yun Jian, "Sister, you're here. Yunju is awake." "Okay." Yun Jian and Duan Li looked at each other and smiled, then walked over. Because of this incident, the school was dismissed in the afternoon. After all, they could only return to school after the police had investigated the whole story. Otherwise, if he continued to go to school, he wouldn't even be able to guarantee his life. What was the point of going to school? This meant that Xiao Yunju and the others were on vacation again. After asking Duan Li, Yun Jian found out that Duan Li had no one to pick her up from school this time. Even Duan Li usually went to school and went home alone. Seeing that Xiao Yunju was worried about Duan Li going home alone, Yun Jian planned to send Duan Li home. Just as she brought Xiao Yunju and Duan Li to the gate, Yun Jian saw Adam and Lan Su rushing back like a rocket. The two of them ran to Yun Jian almost at the same time. "Where did you guys go?" Yun Jian saw the two of them and asked. "To kill the sniper," Adam and Lan Su said in unison. After that, Adam and Lan Su looked at each other and glared at each other. Yun Jian's mouth twitched. Lan Su explained, "I was the one who killed that sniper just now." "Nonsense, young madam. I killed the sniper with a gun." Adam did not back down. Chapter 665. Yun Jian had guessed early on that Adam and Lan Su had gone to kill the sniper. But she hadn't thought that Adam and Lan Su would fight to claim credit in front of her. "Yun Jian, that sniper was indeed killed by my darts." Lan Su didn't back down at all after hearing Adam's words. A trace of annoyance appeared on her proud and cool face. Lan Su's words were directed at Yun Jian. Seeing Lan Su's serious expression, Adam suddenly smiled. Then he looked at Lan Su, then at Yun Jian, and said in a resigned tone, "Fine, fine, fine. You kill that sniper. I'm a man, so I won't argue with a little girl like you." Adam and Mo's son followed beside C. Mo's son was the kind of person who would never claim credit in front of CE, while Adam had a fiery personality and was the kind of person who would say anything. Although Lan Su had lived for thousands of years in the Yulong continent, on Earth, she looked only 16 or 17 years old. She did fit Adam's description of her as a little girl. Adam and Mo's son were both older than CE and were in their early 20s. Hearing Adam call her a little girl, Lan Su cast a sidelong glance at Adam. Her cold and proud face carried a trace of annoyance. "Yun Jian, I don't like to walk with him. Let him go," Lan Su said directly to Yun Jian. Lan Su was from the Yulong continent. She didn't understand the ways of the world, and she didn't know how to treat people with respect. She was very straightforward with her words. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly. She was very helpless, and then she turned to look at Adam. Yun Jian didn't say anything. Hearing Lan Su's words, Adam continued to bicker with Lan Su. "Hey, I'll go my way. You cross your bridge. I don't think we have any deep grudges, right?" Yun Jian didn't say anything, but Adam didn't dare to leave. He was sent back by the young master to serve Yun Jian. If he dared to leave now, Adam dared to guarantee that the door of the Amazon forest would be open for him any time. Furthermore, Shui-Ing was the most unreliable one. Once he made a mistake, Shui-Ing would definitely send him to the Amazon forest. Even though he had the best relationship with Shui-Ing, the clothes that Shui-Ing had given him had been snatched away by CE to be used as a cloak for Yun Jian. Once Shui-Ing heard CE's words, he would definitely become a bad friend. Adam pursed his lips. Yun Jian smiled. Then she touched Duan Li's head and said indifferently, "You all go back first. I'll send Chestnut back before going home." After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lan Su and Adam nodded obediently. "Oh, right." Yun Jian suddenly thought of something and asked. Lan Su and Adam stopped in their tracks. With one hand holding Xiao Yunzhu and the other hand holding Duan Li, Yun Jian had already brought everyone to a less crowded area. Yun Jian looked up at Lan Su and Adam. Using a tone that Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li couldn't hear clearly, she asked, "Have you dealt with the sniper's body?" This time, Adam nodded first and said, "I've already dealt with it. Did you find out where they came from?" This was what Yun Jian wanted to know the most. She wanted to know who sent the assassins to kill her. She, Yun Jian, was not a person to be messed with. Who dared to kill her and even try to kidnap Xiao Yunzhu? She definitely wouldn't let them go. "I've already reported it to the organization. They're still investigating." Adam continued. When Adam was speaking, Lan Su had been standing at the side. She turned her head away and didn't listen to Adam. "Are big sister and big brother Adam fighting?" Xiao Yunzhu also turned his head and looked at Duan Li. The big sister here was naturally Lan Su. Xiao Yunzhu didn't know Lan Su's name yet, so he used big sister instead. Chapter 666. Duan Li didn't know what flirting meant, but she heard from a classmate named Little Hui in her class that the current situation was very similar to what Little Hui had said, so Duan Li said it out loud. Oh, Xiao Yunzhu seemed to understand immediately. He pretended to be a little adult and nodded. He pretended to understand and replied to Duan Li, "Then big sister and big brother Adam are flirting." The big sister he was referring to as Lan Su. To Xiao Yunzhu, as long as someone treated him well and was older than him, even if he didn't know their name, he would call them big sister. I think that should be the case. Duan Li still didn't know that she had misled Xiao Yunzhu. She nodded and then grinned. Duan Li's little face had a slight smile. Just looking at it made people want to pinch her pink little face. No matter how soft Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li's conversation was, Yun Jian still heard it. Lan Su and Adam had good hearing, so naturally they heard everything clearly. After hearing Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li's conversation, Lan Su and Adam's hearts immediately thumped. The two suddenly turned their heads. Neither of them wanted to pay attention to the other. They also stopped bickering, as if they were afraid that Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li would misunderstand again. However, Lan Su wouldn't yell at Xiao Yunzhu or Duan Li in front of Yunjian. With Ce around, Adam didn't dare to do it either. After Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li said that, Yunjian felt awkward for Lan Su and Adam. She pursed her lips again, then said to Lan Su and Adam, "You guys go back first." She was waiting for this sentence. Lan Su and Adam replied at the same time, "Uh-huh." Right after they finished speaking, Lan Su glared at Adam fiercely, then turned around and left quickly. Adam didn't move either. The two of them quickly disappeared from Yunjian's sight. "All right, Chestnut, where do you live? Big sister will take you home now," Yunjian said as she reached out to rub Duan Li's head again. At the mention of home, Duan Li's little body trembled slightly. Yunjian noticed Duan Li's reaction. Yunjian frowned slightly, but didn't ask further. "Miss, can you go and pick up my little sister from school first? Her name is Duanya, and she's a very obedient child. She won't make a fuss." Duan Li asked Yunjian politely, "Where does your sister go to school?" Yunjian did not expect Duan Li to have a younger sister. She was slightly stunned, but her expression did not change. "She attends Liu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street." "Little sister, I'll take you there," Duan Li said, holding Yunjian's hand and leading the way habitually. With Duan Li leading the way, the three of them soon arrived at Liu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street. After picking up Duan Li's little sister, Duanya, Yunjian took Duan Li and Duanya home. On the way, Xiao Yunzhu even plucked up the courage to ask Duan Li, "Chestnut, do you pick up your little sister from school every day?" Duan Li smiled brightly. "Yes, my little sister is very obedient." Duan Li's calm words touched people's hearts. She was only an 8-year-old child herself, but she had to pick up her little sister from school every day. Yunjian suddenly felt a little pity for Duan Li. Duan Li was very steady in doing things. She could not be steady and couldn't be a child because she had a little sister. She had to mature. By the time she took Duan Li and Duanya back to Duan Li's house, the group had already walked for more than 10 minutes. More than 10 minutes later, the group arrived at an apartment that was filled with garbage everywhere, as if no one had cleaned it. There were very few people living in this apartment, and it looked like no one usually cleaned it. Duan Li took them to the 3rd floor and opened her door. Chapter 667. Yunjian's eyelids twitched. The first thing she saw was beer bottles all over the floor. The strong smell of beer, coupled with the rotting smell coming from inside the house, mixed together to create a strong stench. There were very few things in the house. There was only one bedroom and one living room. There was only a small table in the living room that looked like it would break at any time. Other than that, there was a low bed by the window in the living room. The blanket on the bed was very thin. Especially in winter like this, when people were lying on the bed, the cold wind would blow in through the cracks in the window at night. Other than 4 to 5 bowls, chopsticks, and an old stove, there was nothing else. This was Duan Li's house. Yunjian could tell from Duan Li's clothes that she was not a girl from a rich family. Yunjian would never measure a person's worth with money. However, Yunjian did not expect Duan Li's family to be so poor. In fact, Duan Li was a poor student. She was studying at Wanning Elementary School with the help of the state's financial aid for poor students. Duan Li's sister, Duanya, was also in a similar situation. Without the financial aid from the state, Duan Li's family would not even be able to enter the school. "Miss Yunzhu, my dad isn't home. Come in. I'll get you a glass of water." Duan Li pulled her 6-year-old sister to the low bed by the window in the living room and let her sit on it. Then, she said to Yunjian and Xiao Yunzhu. Duan Li then went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water for Yunjian and Xiao Yunzhu. Yunjian and Xiao Yunzhu took the water. After Duan Li handed Yunjian and Xiao Yunzhu the water, she sensibly walked over to pick up the beer bottles on the floor and put them on the stairs in the corridor. She planned to throw them down the stairs together with the trash in the future. Xiao Yunzhu did not mind the environment here. He even sat on the only bench in the house and chatted with Duan Li. Duan Li's younger sister, Duanya, didn't say a word from beginning to end. Yun Jian didn't mind the environment here. She was also invited by Duan Li to sit on Duan Li and Duanya's small bed. Needless to say, it was time for Yun Jian to figure it out. The house had one bedroom and one living room. There wasn't even a toilet. If they wanted to go to the toilet, they had to go to the public toilet downstairs. Since Duan Li and Duan Yu were sleeping on this shabby bed by the window in the living room, that bedroom must be their father's bedroom. From this, it could be inferred that Duan Li and Duan Yu's father did not even have the most basic fatherly love for his two children, let alone spoiling them. Yun Jian suddenly felt sorry for Duan Li. "Miss, my dad won't be coming home today. Why don't you stay for dinner? I'm a great cook." Duan Li invited Yun Jian sincerely. Yun Jian hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. Yun Jian noticed that every time Duan Li mentioned her father, she would be a little scared. And for what Duan Li said just now, if her father came home today, Duan Li wouldn't dare to ask her and Xiao Zhu to stay for dinner. Looking at Duan Li's expression of wanting to show off, Yun Jian finally nodded and smiled at Duan Li. Then, Duan Li ran to the stove and began to cook as if she was an expert. After a while, a pot of food that was quite sumptuous for Duan Li and her sister was out of the oven. It was a bowl of porridge with only a small handful of rice. There were also a few vegetables floating on top of the porridge. The world was so unfair. The rich drove luxury cars while the poor couldn't even afford to have enough food and clothing. To Duan Li, it was already a sumptuous meal to have vegetables mixed in the food. Chapter 668. There were 4 or 5 bowls and chopsticks in Duan Li's house. She took 3 bowls and filled them with porridge from the pot. Then, she took a pair of chopsticks and filled the bowls for Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. After that, she took the bowls back and forth and passed them to Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. Then, Duan Li poured a bowl for her younger sister. Duan Yu didn't make a sound. She was a little afraid of Yun Jian and the others. Because of her natural fear of strangers, she didn't say a word until the end. Duan Li passed the bowl to her, and Duan Yu picked up the bowl and chopsticks. Her small hands picked up the chopsticks, rather clumsily. She stirred the porridge furiously and wolfed it down. Yun Jian felt a little sad seeing this, but under Duan Li's expectant gaze, Yun Jian still picked up the bowl and swallowed all the porridge in it. "It's delicious." Xiao Yunju gave Duan Li a thumbs up and smiled at her after he finished eating. Xiao Yunju didn't think that the living conditions here were too bad for him to stay, and he wouldn't use all sorts of excuses to refuse to stay for dinner because of the poor living conditions. In fact, when Yun Jian found Xiao Yunju in her previous life, Xiao Yunju was in the orphanage at that time. Although the orphanage was maintained by a charity organization, it was useless if there wasn't enough money to donate. This group of orphan children could only sleep in the worst places and barely eat their fill. Xiao Yunju had gone through such a hard life, and he could understand that. Therefore, he wouldn't despise Duan Li's family. Xiao Yunju's praise made Duan Li smile happily. She looked at Xiao Yunju and said to Xiao Yunju, "Eat more then. I'll get more for you when you finish." "What about you? Chestnut, you haven't eaten yet?" Yunju asked when he saw that Duan Li had yet to pick up her bowl after he was done with the porridge. "I'm fine. I'm not hungry. You should eat more." Duan Li shook her head and smiled at Xiao Yunju. Her family could only cook so much rice a day. If she cooked too much and her father found out, he would beat her and her sister again and say that they were greedy. What's more, she had added the only side dish they had today, vegetables. However, she didn't add much. Duan Li knew that if their father came back and saw that there were fewer vegetables, he would definitely beat them again. "No, if you don't eat, then I won't eat either." Xiao Yunju's attitude was very firm. Duan Li was suddenly touched. She picked up Xiao Yunju's bowl and ran to get him a bowl of porridge. Then, as she walked, she said, "Okay, then you can have half and I'll have half." After saying that, Duan Li filled Xiao Yunju's bowl with half a bowl of rice and poured another half for herself. Duan Li finally picked up the bowl to eat the porridge. Yun Jian also smiled. Duan Li had only taken 2 mouthfuls of porridge when she heard footsteps coming from downstairs. Duan Li's heart skipped a beat. Yun Jian frowned. Just then, a rather handsome man in his 30s walked in through the open door. Behind this man was a rich woman in her 40s or 50s who was decked out in gold and silver. Dad! Duan Li didn't expect her father to come back. She was so scared that the bowl in her hand slipped and fell to the ground, and the sound of the bowl breaking could be heard. The man in the lead was quite handsome, and he looked 50% similar to Duan Li and Duanya. When she saw the man, Duanya, who was sitting on the bed, was so scared that she curled up into a ball. Duan Li's father was called Duan Shi. Duan Shi looked decent, and it wasn't hard to tell that he was a rather handsome man when he was young. However, at the moment, he looked a little dispirited, especially when he saw Duan Li and Duanya. His brows were tightly knitted together. When he saw Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju, Duan Shi didn't even ask anything and yelled at Duan Li. Duan Li, didn't I tell you that you're not allowed to bring outsiders to our house? And how dare you break our bowl? Do you want to die? Chapter 669. From Duan Shi's actions, it was obvious that hitting Duan Li was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Duan Li asked Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju to stay for dinner. She did not expect her father to come home that night, because his father would only come home late at night with the smell of beer all over his body. Therefore, when she saw Duan Shi, she was completely dumbfounded. Go to hell! Duan Shi's ferocious and venomous voice rang out, carrying with it an unacceptable sense of unreasonableness. At the same time, Duan Shi's broom was right above Duan Li's forehead. Don't hit little chestnut. Get lost. Xiao Yunju immediately rushed out and extended his small arms to block Duan Shi's blow. Duan Shi would even hit his own daughter, let alone someone who was not related to him by blood. He waved the broom and viciously swung it at Xiao Yunju's head. If he was not careful, this strike could even paralyze Xiao Yunju. After all, a child's body was very fragile. The rich woman who was in her 40s or 50s who stood behind Duan Shi was even more excited when she saw the scene. Shaking her thick legs, she watched as Duan Shi swung the broom at Yunju and Duan Li like she was watching a show. Just as the rich woman saw Duan Shi raise the broom above Xiao Yunju's head and was about to hit Xiao Yunju's head heavily, a figure blocked in front of Xiao Yunju like a flash of lightning. Then, they saw Yun Jian reach out. She gently reached out and caught the broom that Duan Shi was swinging at her. Swoosh! Everyone present could only hear the soft sound of the broom being swung. Other than that, there was no other sound. Suddenly, Yun Jian caught the broom. Duan Shi frowned and looked at Yun Jian. His originally handsome face suddenly scrunched up. He looked at Yun Jian ferociously and shouted, "Who are you? Why are you in my house? Why are you meddling in my family's business? Get lost, get lost. I'm hitting my own daughter. What does it have to do with you?" Duan Shi's words were overbearing and self-righteous. Yun Jian frowned. She looked at Duan Shi and stood in front of Duan Li, who was trembling in fear, and Xiao Yunju, who had stepped forward to save Duan Li. Yun Jian's aura carried the arrogance of a ruler. She looked at Duan Shi, and naturally, she had already guessed the situation of Duan Li's family. It doesn't matter who I am, but I have to get involved in today's matter. Yun Jian's voice rang out, causing Duan Shi and the rich woman standing behind her to shiver. Of course, it was just a shiver. Her age was not enough to threaten Duan Shi and the rich woman. Honey, isn't this your home? What does hitting your own daughter have to do with her? And who is she? If they come to your house, you can sue them for trespassing. The rich woman walked over and leaned against Duan Shi. She used her elephant legs and fat, but to stick to Duan Shi as she shouted intimately. Yun Jian knew what was going on right away. This Duan Shi was good-looking, but his family was so poor. If she guessed correctly, this Duan Shi was probably kept by this rich woman in front of her. In this day and age, it was not necessary for a rich man to keep a woman as a mistress. As long as one was rich, a woman could still keep a man as a mistress. Mei Mei, sit down first. I'll serve you after I've dealt with these two shameless cheese in my house. Duan Shi shouted intimately at the rich woman. Then, he turned around and looked at Duan Li and Duanya with a furious expression. He was indeed kept by this rich woman's husband, who was worth tens of millions. The rich woman also relied on her husband's money to keep him as a mistress. It was also because this rich woman named Shi Mei came from a wealthy family that Duan Shi chose to be with her, even though she was ugly and was 20 to 30 years older than him. Chapter 670. Duan Shi turned to look at Yunjian after speaking to Shi Mei intimately. This is my family's business. Scram. Otherwise, I'll call the police. You can wait to go to jail. Duan Shi glared at Yunjian, his tone harsh and uncourteous. Just as Duan Shi finished, Shi Mei fished out a newly bought phone from her bag like she was showing off and dialed 110 in front of everyone. Country Z's first 110 police station was set up in 1986. It was now 1999, and Longmen City was one of the more economically developed cities in Country Z. Therefore, a 110 police station had been set up a long time ago. After Shi Mei took out her phone, she waved it in front of Yunjian like she was showing off. Then, she used her plump hand with bright red nail polish that looked fashionable in this era to dial 110. However, she did not make the call directly. Duan Shi turned to see that Shi Mei had already dialed the police number. He snickered at Shi Mei and turned to threaten Yunjian again in a vicious tone. If you don't scram, we'll call the police right away. We have phones. Huh. Duan Shi was full of bragging as he spoke. He felt that he was rich now that he was riding on Shi Mei's coattails. Jie Yunju, leave now. Duan Li was obviously afraid of Duan Shi, but she walked over anyway and tugged at the corner of Yunjian's shirt as she told Yunjian, Scram, scram. And you two damn brats, I'll definitely kill you later. How dare you disregard my words? Duan Shi scolded Yunjian, first before he spoke in a menacing tone like he was going to swallow Duan Li and Duanya alive. It was not hard to imagine how Duan Li and Duanya would be tortured by Duan Shi if Yunjian really left with Xiao Yunju. Yunjian pulled Duan Li into her arms without a trace. She glared at Duan Shi with a sharp gaze before she let go of Duan Li. I won't allow you to bully Chestnut. Xiao Yunju stood in front of Duan Li and Yunjian. He stretched out his arms and glared at Duan Shi with his small black eyes. His stare was so intense that it almost bored a hole in Duan Shi's body. It was a pity that Duan Shi had been frightened since he was young. Xiao Yunju's threats had no effect on Duan Shi. Xiao Zhu, let's go. Yunjian let go of Duan Li's hand, then grabbed Xiao Yunju's hand and walked towards the door. Sister, why? If we leave, Chestnut will be bullied. Xiao Yunju was stunned. He always thought that his sister was very powerful. Why did his sister want to leave when Chestnut was in danger? Duan Shi and Shi Mei, who was standing behind them with her phone in her hand, smiled contemptuously at Yunjian. They thought that Yunjian was frightened by them. Just as Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked between Duan Shi and Shi Mei and was about to walk out of the door, Yunjian suddenly turned around and kicked Duan Shi. The strength of his kick was so strong that it suddenly knocked Duan Shi to the ground. Duan Shi's face was smashed to the ground, and his front teeth were bleeding instantly. At the same time, Yunjian strode forward. She snatched the phone from Shi Mei's hand before she could react. Then, she pounced forward and kicked Shi Mei to the ground with a roundhouse kick. Shi Mei's plump body slammed hard against the door behind her. She was in so much pain that she almost suffocated. Duan Shi and Shi Mei only recovered from their shock after they were sent flying by the kick. Yunjian wanted to leave just now because she wanted to stop Shi Mei from calling 110 to call the police. She was so good at acting. More importantly, how could this 16-year-old girl have such powerful skills? Chapter 671. Duan Shi and Shi Mei had yet to recover from their shock when they were sent flying by the kick. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li both looked at Yunjian with admiration. Duan Shi and Shi Mei were obviously terrified. Yunjian's skills were uncanny and frightening. How could there be a 16 or 17-year-old girl who pretended to leave just a second ago and turned around to send someone flying with a kick as fast as she could when she reached the door? Duan Shi and Shi Mei were used to the evils of society. They had already thought of themselves as people who were familiar with the cruelty of reality and were the pioneers of society. Duan Shi, in particular, could have anything he wanted ever since he fell in love with a rich woman like Shi Mei. Money for beer was not a problem at all. Recently, Duan Shi had been behaving as respectfully as he could and often did not return home at night. Coming home today, Duan Shi had planned to abandon his children and take some necessities to enjoy himself with Shi Mei. However, he did not expect to see two strangers, Yun Jian and Xiao Yunzhu, as soon as he got home. Duan Shi was poor and was unwilling to go to work to earn money. He had also never raised his two children at home. It was Longmen City's government that was paying for their livelihood. Duan Shi even had to use the funds given by the government to buy beer, let alone support Duan Li and Duan Ya. In fact, it was only recently that Duan Shi had stopped taking the money given to his children by the government because he had fallen in love with a rich woman like Shi Mei. Of course, if he wanted Duan Shi to give Duan Li and Duan Ya living expenses, there was no way. Beep, beep, beep. Just as Duan Shi was sent flying and his front teeth were bleeding and he was thinking about killing Yun Jian and his two burdens, the sound of a phone being dialed rang. Yun Jian's hand pressed the confirm button on Shi Mei's phone softly. Shi Mei's phone had already dialed 110, but she and Duan Shi had been threatening Yun Jian. Moreover, Shi Mei and Duan Shi only knew how to dial the number. They did not have the courage to call the police, especially Shi Mei, who was now using her husband's money to support Duan Shi. If she really went to the police station to make a statement, it would definitely alarm her husband. If Shi Mei's husband found out about Shi Mei and Duan Shi's scandal, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. Moreover, not to mention taking money from Shi Mei's husband to give to Duan Shi, even Shi Mei herself would face marriage problems with her husband. At that time, even Shi Mei would turn from a rich woman to a penniless one. Therefore, Shi Mei did not dare to call the police. At most, she only wanted to threaten Yun Jian. But he never thought that Yun Jian wouldn't fall for it. Yun Jian naturally saw through Shi Mei's thoughts. She snatched the phone just to call the police. After the phone rang 3 times, Shi Mei and Duan Shi instantly realized the danger they were in. They ignored the pain from being thrown to the ground and the door and rushed toward Yun Jian as soon as they got up. Shi Mei shouted and screamed at the same time. Her fiery voice no longer had its initial tranquility. "Give it back to me! Give it back to me! You'd *MN woman, give it back to me! Do you believe that we won't find someone to kill you? Give us back our phones now." Duan Shi threatened Yun Jian as he looked at her ferociously. Duan Shi also knew some gangsters, so he threatened Yun Jian even more vigorously. However, Duan Shi was smarter than Shi Mei. He was kicked by Yun Jian just now, so he did not dare to go forward. Shi Mei, on the other hand, rushed forward without a care. However, just as Shi Mei reached Yun Jian pulled Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li to avoid her. Chapter 672. I'm reporting domestic violence against a child at home. The address is Unit 302, Block 3, Residential Apartment, East Street, Sanyang Road. Yun Jian told her address and everything in one breath. When Shi Mei rushed over, Yun Jian had already told her everything, including their address. Yun Jian knew the address so well because she had a habit. No matter where she went, she would look at the street signs around her, including the house numbers. Of course, she would only take a quick glance. Others might not be able to see anything, but she had already memorized all the street signs and house numbers. In fact, in daily life, street signs, house numbers, and even the building of the apartment were all indicated. It all depended on whether one would look and pay attention in real life. Of course, Yun Jian had a good memory, so she remembered all of it. When Yun Jian reported the address accurately, Duan Shi and his Shi Mei were dumbfounded. At that moment, Yin Jian had already hung up on Shermei's phone. She was wearing sportswear today because she was attending Xiao Yunju's parent-child sports day. Her phone was a heavy item, so she did not bring it. Instead, she brought a butterfly knife, because the butterfly knife was something she was used to using. Seeing that Yin Jian had already hung up on the phone, Shermei flew into a rage. She turned to glare at Duan Shi and shouted, "What should we do? What should we do? She already made the call. How did she know your address? Were you the one who told her about it? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Anyway, this has nothing to do with me. You can do whatever you want." Because Shermei was afraid, she pushed all the blame to Duan Shi. After saying that, Shermei grabbed her bag and wanted to run away. Because Shermei was nervous, she did not even want to take her phone back. "No, I didn't say it. Mei, I came back with you. How could I lie to you?" Duan Shi quickly turned around and pulled Shermei. Then Duan Shi pushed all the blame to Duan Li. Duan Shi glared at Duan Li and spoke in a fierce tone. That fierce tone did not have the slightest trace of father-daughter affection. He looked at Duan Li and roared, "Was it you who gave her my address just now? You little bitch, I'll kill you later." Not only did Duan Shi have no fatherly affection for Duan Li and Duanya, he even hated them. Usually, he would hit and kick them. When he was drunk, Duan Shi would even smash a beer bottle on Duan Li's head. Duan Li had a cut on her head from the beer bottle shards, but because of her hair, no one could see it. "Father, Duan Li shrunk back in fear. She could already imagine how Duan Shi would scold and beat her. Xiao Yunju, Duan Shi, Duan Li, Duan Shi, and Duan Shermei, and Duan Shi. Looking at Duan Shi, Yun Jian's right hand had been in her pocket since the beginning. UB*TCH. Just you wait. If I don't kill you, I'm not human. Just you wait. Duan Shi did not dare to attack Duan Li, as she was protected by Yun Jian. Therefore, Duan Shi could only threaten Duan Li verbally. At that moment, Duan Shi wanted to tear Duan Li into pieces. After saying that, Duan Shi held Shermei's hand, and the two of them planned to escape. At that moment, police sirens were heard from the door. Duan Shi and Shermei's hearts tightened. Why did the police come so quickly? At that moment, 3 or 4 police officers came up the stairs. As soon as the police officers entered the stairs, Yun Jian saw a familiar face. Chapter 673. Officer Wu received a new mission not long after he finished his work at Wanningi Elementary School. Someone reported domestic violence. Usually, domestic violence could be mediated with the neighborhood committee first. If the mediation failed, the police would intervene. However, according to the police records, it was not the first time Duan Shi's family had been reported for domestic violence. The police had even intervened before. Duan Shi had been sent to the police station more than once. However, he was released in the end. Duan Li and Duanya were often beaten up badly by Duan Shi. Even the other owners of the apartment could not stand it anymore. Therefore, someone had already reported Duan Shi. Duan Shi had also been arrested and sent to the police station, but he was eventually released without charge. Of course, the other owners of the apartment would not watch Duan Shi for domestic violence for the sake of Duan Li and Duanya. Therefore, Duan Shi would only hit his daughters when there was no one around. Other than that, Duan Shi would only hit Duan Li and Duanya in front of others when he was drunk. Otherwise, Duan Shi would vent his anger on his daughters when he was angry. It was also because of this that Officer Wu was sent here before he even returned to the police station after finishing his work. Moreover, it was not Officer Wu's first time here, so he was familiar with the place. However, Officer Wu did not expect to see Yun Jian right after he finished his work at Wanningi Elementary School. Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. She was Team Monarch's slashing god. Therefore, Officer Wu was shocked when he saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian merely smiled at Officer Wu. Duan Shi and Shermei were already nervous. When Officer Wu greeted Yun Jian the moment he entered, they were even more shocked. Yun Jian, she knows a police officer? If that was the case, are you the one who reported the case? Just as Duan Shi and Shi Mei were feeling guilty, Officer Wu asked Yunjian. Officer Wu did not even look at Duan Shi and Shi Mei. Yunjian nodded slightly. We've investigated this matter many times. You Mr. Duan, right? Officer Wu looked at Duan Shi and was not unfamiliar with him. The news of Duan Shi beating up Duan Li and Duanya had already spread throughout the apartment complex. Some of the owners could not stand it anymore and had already called the police. The neighborhood committee had tried to persuade Duan Shi, and the police had tried to detain Duan Shi, but it was useless. Because the police station did not have absolute evidence to prove the severity of Duan Shi's domestic violence, it was not enough to put Duan Shi behind bars. Duan Shi only glanced at Officer Wu and did not reply. But in reality, Officer Wu knew who Duan Shi was even without asking. Regarding your abuse of the child, Officer Wu was interrupted by Duan Shi before he could finish his sentence. Mother of asterisk Kerr, the child is mine. I can hit him however I want. What can you do about it? Duan Shi cursed at Officer Wu. Anyone who heard Duan Shi's inhumane words would feel a wave of displeasure well up in their hearts. Officer Wu also cursed Duan Shi in his heart. It was mainly because he didn't have any conclusive evidence to arrest Duan Shi. Otherwise, Officer Wu would have already arrested someone like Duan Shi and sent him to jail. In 1999, video recorders and audio recorders were not everywhere. At least, the owners of the apartments did not have them. Otherwise, if someone had recorded the scene of Duan Shi abusing the child or his abuse of the child, Duan Shi would have been sent to jail long ago. Chapter 674. Did you tell her my address just now? You little b asterisk tch. I'm going to kill you both later. Dad, you'd asterisk mn b asterisk tch. Just you wait. I won't be human if I don't kill you. Just you wait. The voice came from Yunjian's sweatpants pocket. It was Duan Shi insulting Duan Li before Officer Wu arrived. When the recording ended, Yunjian took out the mini recorder from her pocket. The recorder was small, and Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to prepare it for her. Now that new cruise was growing in scale and had begun expanding across the country, Yunjian planned to expand the company to other regions with its headquarters in Longmen City after some time. New Cruise's name in Country Z would be fully established. Of course, it was not something that could be done in a day, and there was no hurry. As for the recorder, Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase it from overseas. She knew that she would need the recorder in many ways, so Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase a mini recorder for her. Zhang Jifan had just gotten the recorder for Yunjian as well. Yunjian had brought it with her today, but she did not expect the first use of the recorder to be on Duan Shi. With the recorded conversation, Duan Shi could do nothing even if he wanted to quibble. Officer Wu had been displeased with Duan Shi for a long time. Of course, it was purely because of Duan Shi's inhumanity. He did not treat his daughter as a human being, but as a punching bag. Anyone who did such a thing would be despised. Officer Wu could not get any evidence of Duan Shi's actions before this, but with the recording in Yunjian's hands, he could arrest Duan Shi immediately. Duan Li did have many injuries on her as well. Once Yunjian's recorder was out, Duan Shi would not be able to escape from prison. Therefore, when Duan Shi heard the recording, his face instantly turned pale from rosy to pale. Give it to me. Damn girl, give it to me. Duan Shi did not care about anything else as he charged towards Yunjian with a ferocious look on his face. Duan Shi pounced on Yunjian fiercely, but Yunjian merely narrowed her eyes. Yunjian did not move or make a sound. Be careful. Looking at Duan Shi lunging at Yunjian, Officer Wu's murderous move made him freeze in shock. Yunjian raised her leg and kicked Duan Shi to the ground. Officer Wu also breathed a sigh of relief. Taking advantage of the time, when Duan Shi pounced on Yunjian, Shi Mei had already disappeared without a trace. Because there were no policemen to stop Shi Mei, she ran very fast. Duan Shi was kicked to the ground, and Duan Li merely blinked her small eyes twice. To Duan Li, fatherly love did not exist at all. Moreover, Duan Li had always been beaten to a pulp by Duan Shi, so she did not have any affection for Duan Shi. Duanya, on the other hand, curled up at the foot of the bed and looked over without moving. Her frightened look made one's heart ache. If one looked closely, the back of Duan Li's and Duan Ya's hands and feet were covered with scars that looked like they had been cut. Damn it! Damn it! I'm going to kill you. Duan Shi did not want to go to jail. He wanted to snatch the recorder from Yunjian's hands. Chapter 675. Duan Shi had gone mad. He had gone mad. Duan Shi had been to the police station before, and everyone knew that there was no freedom in the police station. People like Duan Shi yearned for freedom. If Duan Shi were to stay in the police station for a week, he would not be able to endure it. Moreover, there was another main reason. How could there be alcohol in the police station? Duan Shi was an alcoholic, and he would not be able to survive without alcohol. It was the same principle as how some people could not live without cigarettes, and those who were addicted to drugs could not get rid of their addiction. Therefore, when Yunjian took out the recording device, Duan Shi went crazy. He could not beat Yunjian, so he picked up the kitchen knife and threatened Yunjian. Seeing Duan Shi pick up the kitchen knife, Officer Wu and the others were shocked. If a person was powerful, he could fight against 2 or 3 people at once. However, if the opponent had a deadly weapon, he would be afraid no matter how powerful he was. After all, this person had not been formally trained. Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal special forces training. Therefore, when they saw Duan Shi pick up the knife, they shuddered. However, Officer Wu and the other policemen took out the stun batons on their waists. The stun batons were for the police. However, Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal training. Therefore, even with the stun batons in their hands, the sharp knife in Duan Shi's hands still sent chills down their spines. Duan Shi held the kitchen knife and approached Yunjian carefully. At the same time, he threatened Yunjian, "Give me the recording device. Give it to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." "Dad!" Duan Li's heart clenched. Although she was not related to Duan Shi, Duan Li did not want Duan Shi to be in a desperate situation. Xiao Yunju had already pulled Duan Li behind them. "Don't be afraid. I'll protect you." Xiao Yunju looked at Duan Li and said sternly, "Mr. Duan, this is considered an assault on a police officer. Put down your weapon." Officer Wu stood in front and advised Duan Shi, "Unless she gives me the recording device, I'll kill all of you." Duan Shi thought that everyone present was suppressed by him, and he became more arrogant. However, in reality, Duan Shi's hand was trembling as he gripped the saber. "You want this?" Yunjian held the recording device in her hand. She shook it in front of Duan Shi and then held it in her hand. "Yes, give it to me. Give it to me." Duan Shi shouted even louder when he saw the recording device. He didn't want to go to jail. He couldn't go to jail. Therefore, he had to get the recording device. "Want it? Come over, and I'll give it to you." Yunjian held the recording device. She crossed her arms and looked at Duan Shi fearlessly. "I'm not going over. Throw it to me." Duan Shi really thought that Yunjian was afraid of the kitchen knife in his hand. After all, he could kill people with a kitchen knife without blinking an eye. The reason why Duan Shi didn't want to go to Yunjian's side was because he still remembered Yunjian's strange skills. He really couldn't stop her. Duan Shi firmly believed that as long as he didn't go over, Yunjian would be afraid of him. Then, when the recording device was thrown to him, he would crush it immediately. "If you're not coming over, I'll go over." Yunjian smiled sarcastically. Then, under the watchful eyes of Officer Wu and the other policemen, she walked toward Duan Shi fearlessly. "Be careful." Although Officer Wu and the rest knew that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier, they still doubted her ability when they saw Yunjian's age. It was human nature. Seeing Yunjian walk toward Duan Shi step by step, Officer Wu and the rest felt their hearts squeeze together. Chapter 676. Seeing Yunjian walking towards Duan Shi step by step, Officer Wu and the rest were a little scared. No matter what, Yunjian was still a young girl. Even though she was an advanced Special Forces soldier, Yunjin was not holding anything in her hands at that moment. On the other hand, Duanshi was holding a kitchen knife. The person who was not holding a weapon and the person who was holding a weapon. The person who had the weapon definitely had the upper hand. If you come any closer, I'll kill you. Duanshi was so scared that his whole body was trembling. He retreated step by step until he could not retreat any further. Then he stopped and pointed the knife at Yunjin. Didn't you want this? Yunjin weighed the recording device in her hand. She suddenly stopped smiling and turned to look at Duanshi with her cold eyes. Duanshi's eyes turned, and he stared at the recording device in Yunjin's hand. In the next second, Duanshi's eyes flashed viciously. He held the knife and rushed towards Yunjin as fast as he could. Duanshi held the knife in one hand and slashed it towards Yunjin from top to bottom. His other hand was quite agile, as he knew how to snatch the recording device in Yunjin's hand. Give it to me, Duanshi said ferociously. As he spoke, his ferocious expression made most of the people present gasp. Crazy. This Duanshi was really crazy. Just as Officer Wu and the rest were about to close their eyes and not dare to watch what was going to happen next, Yunjin suddenly reached out her hand. At that moment, Duanshi was holding the kitchen knife and slashing it towards Yunjin. Sister, little sister, Xiao Yunju and Duanli screamed almost at the same time. Both of them were scared out of their wits and screamed at the top of their lungs. The kitchen knife in Duanshi's hand was aimed at Yunjin's head, but Yunjin actually reached out her hand to catch it. That was a kitchen knife. The tip of the knife was extremely sharp. Even if one's finger accidentally slipped on the tip of such a kitchen knife when cutting vegetables, one would be injured. If he accidentally used too much force when cutting vegetables, it could cause the wound to bleed profusely. If this kitchen knife were to cut into a person's body, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even though Yunjin had killed an assassin of the Inferno Ring in Wanning Elementary School, Officer Wu had not seen it. After all, Yunjin had killed an assassin from the Inferno Ring. At most, Officer Wu and the others questioned everyone who was present at the scene and made a statement. As for how Yunjin killed the Inferno Ring assassin, they had only heard about it from the parents and teachers of Wanning Elementary School. Be careful. Officer Wu couldn't help but shout again. Although the people present were afraid to see the bloody scene, Officer Wu and the others were men after all. They had guts and wouldn't close their eyes. Duanshi's knife was already above Yunjin's head, and Yunjin had already reached out her hand. Most of the people present thought that Yunjin would definitely be injured by Duanshi. Even Duanshi revealed a sinister smile, thinking that he would be able to snatch the recording device away from her. In the next second, Yunjin reached out. Her fair and smooth hand accurately grabbed the tip of the kitchen knife in Duanshi's hand with her thumb and index finger at lightning speed. The knife in Duanshi's hand was only 2 centimeters away from Yunjin's flesh. If he continued to cut, he would be able to cut off Yunjin's thumb. However, no matter how hard Duanshi tried, Yunjin's thumb and index finger pinched the tip of the knife tightly, causing Duanshi's hand to be unable to move. You! Duanshi suddenly saw this scene and screamed in shock. Officer Wu and the others, who were standing far away, saw this scene and were all shocked as if they had seen a ghost. Duanshi was holding the handle of the knife. The tip of the knife was the sharpest part to begin with. Yunjin was actually able to accurately grab the tip of the knife with the fastest speed and control her strength to prevent Duanshi, who already had an absolute advantage holding the handle, from continuing to cut down with the knife. This Yunjin, how strong must her fingers be to be able to catch Duanshi's knife without batting an eyelid? Chapter 677. Although Officer Wu and the others had not participated in the Special Forces training, they had been doing morning runs and exercises every day to strengthen their bodies. But suddenly, they saw Yunjin reach out to catch the kitchen knife that Duanshi was swinging at her. What's more, Yunjin used her fingers to pinch the tip of the knife, stopping Duanshi's attack just 2 centimeters away from her skin. It was important to note that a kitchen knife was quite smooth. To pinch the tip of the knife with just the strength of one's hand and prevent the knife from cutting downwards. Yunjian's finger strength and hand strength were not something that a normal person could compare with. Officer Wu and the others were stunned. Duan Shi had just recovered from a shock and was about to pull the knife back to cut Yunjian again. Yunjian moved her leg sideways. She lifted her leg, and without looking, she stepped on Duan Shi's knee. Ah! Duan Shi screamed. His knee was kicked by Yunjian, and it went soft instantly. The next second, Duan Shi knelt down with a thud from the pain. He had unintentionally knelt in the direction of Yunjian. Duan Shi's legs went soft, and his hand loosened. Yunjian reached out and easily snatched the kitchen knife from Duan Shi's hand. She turned her hand and held the knife to Duan Shi's neck as he knelt in front of her. Duan Shi was so scared that he was sweating all over. In the next second, he heard Yunjian's calm and emotionless voice. "You don't deserve to be Chestnut's father. Killing you will dirty my hands." With Yunjian's cold kitchen knife on his neck, Duan Shi could not care about anything else. He was about to be killed by Yunjian. I beg you, don't kill me. I was wrong. Don't kill me." Duan Shi's somewhat handsome face was extremely pale. He was so scared that his whole body was shaking. Even if someone held him down, he could not stop shaking. In the face of life and death, most people would be afraid. Don't. Officer Wu thought that Yunjian was really going to kill Duan Shi. He quickly ran forward to stop her. Duan Shi was scum, but if Yunjian really killed him, then Yunjian would not be able to escape the punishment of the law. Immediately, a police officer ran up and handcuffed Duan Shi's hands, bringing him back to the police station. After Yunjian put away the kitchen knife, Officer Wu walked over and asked Yunjian, "Can you bring the child back to the police station with us to make a statement?" Yunjian nodded as she held Duan Li's trembling hand. Regardless of whether Duan Shi's abuse of the child constituted domestic violence or whether he had to go to jail, at least he had assaulted a police officer and tried to snatch Yunjian's recording device. And it was in front of the police. He would definitely be detained. After such an incident, Duan Li and Duan Yu would definitely have to go to the police station to make a statement. Today's incident was actually caused by her, so Yunjian was determined not to leave Duan Li and Duan Yu behind. After making a statement at the police station, Duan Shi was temporarily detained. As for Duan Shi's sentence, it would take some time. However, according to Officer Wu's explanation, Duan Shi would definitely go to jail. Even if he did go to jail, it would not be for long. The exact time would have to wait for the verdict. After making a statement, Officer Wu personally sent Yunjian and the other 3 out of the police station. Some of the female police officers and police officers who were working at the police station saw them and took a few more glances at Yunjian. When they saw Yunjian, everyone present was a little shocked. The person who could be personally escorted out by Officer Wu was actually a young girl. At this moment, Officer Wu and Yunjian were already standing at the entrance. Regarding these 2 children, I can send them to the Children's Welfare Institute. Officer Wu looked at Duan Li and Duan Yu and said to Yunjian, "No need, I'll take care of them," Yunjian said with a smile. To Yunjian, having 2 more mouths to feed did not affect her at all. The reason why Yunjian adopted Duan Li and Duan Yu was because Xiao Yunju begged her. Chapter 678. Seeing that Duan Li had agreed to follow Yunjian, Officer Wu did not stop her. Usually, adopting a child required a lot of procedures, but Duan Li was not an orphan. At least her father was still alive. Yunjian was an advanced Special Forces soldier and one of Gu Yunjian's men, so she was naturally trustworthy. Therefore, Officer Wu registered and let Yunjian take the children away first. The following procedures would not be too complicated because Yunjian's identity was there. No matter how complicated the procedures were, Officer Wu would help Yunjian with it. Of course, if he cannot do it, there was still good Yunjian. "Okay, then I'll leave these 2 children to you. If you need anything, you can contact me anytime." Officer Wu nodded at Yunjian and then said sincerely. He was also very sincere. Not to mention anything else, Just Yun Jian's ability alone was enough to convince him. Okay. Yun Jian nodded at Officer Wu. After saying goodbye, she turned and walked across the road with Duan Li, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju. Duan Li held Duanya's hand. Duanya did not say a word, but she was very obedient. It was already dinner time at Duan Li's house. After so many things happened, they waited until now to give their statements at the police station. It was already 7 in the evening. Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju had some food, but Duan Li did not eat anything. Duanya only ate a little bit of porridge that could not even be considered porridge. Duan Li, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju were about the same age. Now that they were all growing up, children at this age needed to eat and replenish their nutrition. However, the food that Duan Li and Duanya usually ate was probably not enough, let alone nutritious food. Yun Jian held Duan Li and Xiao Yunju while Duan Li held her sister, Duanya. The four of them walked across the road. Yun Jian suddenly turned and asked Duan Li, "Chestnut, are you hungry? I'll take you to eat." Okay. Sister, I'm hungry again. Let's go eat." Although Xiao Yunju had eaten, he was still a growing child. Naturally, he would get hungry easily. Duan Li lowered her head slightly, but she still raised her head to look at Yun Jian. Her small eyes seemed to be glowing as she said, "Miss, thank you." Yun Jian smiled and rubbed Duan Li's head. Then, she brought Duan Li, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju to a nearby restaurant. On the other hand, Adam and Lan Su went on their way after bidding farewell to Yun Jian. Of course, the reason they traveled together was because Lan Su's suite was in the same direction as Dong Ruan's villa. Lan Su and Adam continued to move forward. The two of them were competing to see who could run faster. The passers-by could only feel 2 gusts of wind blowing past them. It had to be said that both Lan Su and Adam were competitive people. It was not until Lan Su reached the door of her suite that she turned to leave. She left Adam with a snort as she left. "Oomph, hot." Adam touched the bridge of his nose. This was the first time he had competed with a woman in a race. Moreover, their speed was on par. After laughing for a while, Adam's handsome face disappeared. He turned around and walked back to Dong Ruan's villa. Adam was staying at Dong Ruan's house as Siyi's friend. Moreover, there were many rooms in the villa. Adam had just returned to Dong Ruan's house when he met Immerse's son halfway. "Who's that woman?" Mawson crossed his arms and looked at Adam from the side as he asked. "You saw her." Adam's tall figure walked over. Chapter 679. Immerse nodded. Then he asked again, "Who's that woman?" "She works for young madam." Adam chuckled. Then he looked at Immerse's son and walked over, put his arm around Immerse's shoulder. He asked in an experienced manner, "Aren't you very free? Why are you asking this?" "Young master is back." Immerse's son did not answer Adam directly. Instead, he changed the topic. "Oh." Adam nodded. He had guessed it too. Immerse-san followed C.E. back to an Hun organization. Now that Immerse-san was back, C.E. would naturally be back too. Let's go home." Adam could already guess that their young master must have gone to look for Yun Jian again. Hence, Adam put his arm around Immerse's shoulder and walked back home like brothers. Yun Jian brought Duan Li and her children to a restaurant nearby. This restaurant was called Jiangxi Stir Fry. It was a famous delicacy nearby. Jiangxi's menu was suitable for the public's appetite. Of course, some people from other provinces did not eat spicy food. Jiangxi's dishes had a taste that one would never get tired of eating. Of course, everyone had their own preferences. However, Yun Jian liked it very much. Yun Jian could eat a little spicy food, but Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Yun Jian did not eat spicy food. Hence, when they were ordering, Yun Jian asked the boss to prepare non-spicy dishes. They ordered 3 meat and 3 vegetable dishes. When the dishes were served, Duan Li and Duanya were dumbfounded. Duan Li and Duanya had never eaten such delicious food since they were born. Although the school's food was already considered a delicacy to them, the school's cafeteria food was not as good as the freshly fried dishes outside. Duan Li and Duanya were practically wolfing down the food. "Eat slowly." Yun Jian smiled with her eyes squinted. There are a total of 16 chicken drumsticks. There are 4 of us. For each of us. Xiao Yunzhu calculated quickly and put the drumsticks into everyone's bowls. Xiao Yunzhu was very smart. He was afraid that Duan Li and Duanya would not eat, so he put the meat into everyone's bowls separately. In fact, Yun Jian had also noticed that Duan Li and Duanya had not touched the meat since the dishes were served. It was likely that the 2 children had never eaten meat before. Even if there was meat at home, Duan sure would never let Duan Li and Duanya touch it. These 2 children had probably developed a habit and didn't dare to eat meat anymore. I'm not eating. You guys share it. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, her long eyelashes fluttering. Duan Li blinked her small eyes. She looked at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian, "If you don't want to eat, we won't eat either." Duan Li put down her chopsticks as she spoke. As soon as Duan Li put down her chopsticks, Duanya, who was sitting beside her, also put down her chopsticks. Duanya had no idea what was going on. She only knew that her sister had put down her chopsticks, and she had to follow suit. If elder sister doesn't want to eat, Xiaozhu won't eat either. Xiao Yunzhu also learned to put down his chopsticks. Yun Jian smiled when she saw their reactions. She picked up a chicken drumstick with her chopsticks, gave it a gentle bite, and swallowed it. Xiao Yunzhu and Duan Li looked at her and happily picked up their bowls and chopsticks to eat the chicken drumsticks in their bowls. Duanya remained silent, but she also picked up her chopsticks with her clumsy hands like Duan Li. Yun Jian looked at the bright smiles on the 3 children's faces. She subconsciously curled up the corners of her lips. She had probably never felt so warm in her previous life or this life. At that moment, Yun Jian was using her chopsticks to pick up a chicken drumstick. She had just lowered her head and was about to swallow the chicken drumstick when a gentle and mellow male voice sounded beside her. "Is a drumstick good?" Chapter 680. Yun Jian turned to look and saw Ce standing in front of her. His jet black hair accentuated his fair and handsome face, and his casual outfit made him stand out. Ce was the kind of person who got more and more attractive the more you looked at him. Yun Jian couldn't help but be stunned when she turned to look at him. "Do I look good?" Ce walked over and rubbed Yun Jian's head affectionately. Then, he reached out and lifted Xiao Yunzhu up from Yun Jian's seat. Ce lifted Xiao Yunzhu and gently placed him beside Duan Li. Duanya sat beside Duan Li. The tables here were facing each other, but the stools were arranged in a row. If 3 people squeezed together, they could still sit together. Xiao Yunzhu, Duan Li, and Duanya were small to begin with. Thus, when Ce brought Xiao Yunzhu to Yun Jian, the 3 of them could sit in a row without cramped space. Ce smoothly sat beside Yun Jian. Then, he leaned his head back and placed his hands on his forehead. Just like that, he turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian paused. Then, she gently placed the chicken drumstick back into the bowl. "How did you know we were here?" Yun Jian asked. She wasn't surprised that Ce was back. She was surprised that he knew she would be here for dinner. Moreover, even if Adam had met Ce, he wouldn't have known that she was here. This was because after Adam and Lan Su parted ways with her, something unpleasant had happened to her at Duan Li's house. "How can I not know where you are?" Ce kept her in suspense. His handsome lips curved upwards. His sharp features were extremely handsome. Yun Jian didn't want to get to the bottom of it. What's more, Yun Jian's focus wasn't on this at all. "Oh." Yun Jian pursed her lips slightly, then picked up her chopsticks again and picked up the drumstick. "If you don't want it, then give it to me." Ce stretched out his slender and fair fingers. His fingers were well-defined, slender, and beautiful. At this moment, this good-looking hand directly grasped Yun Jian's jade-like hand. He pressed against Yun Jian's hand and moved the drumstick in Yun Jian's hand to his face. Yun Jian turned to look at Ce and pursed her lips. At this moment, the chicken drumstick in Yun Jian's hand had already been controlled by Ce and was being fed to him. His hand was close to hers, and her hand was holding the chopsticks. This scene was so embarrassing that it was hard to imagine. Yunzhu watched the scene in bewilderment, still unable to wrap his head around it. Duan Li and Duanya were watching as well, Duan Li's mouth agape. The three children had yet to recover from their shock. See, he had already taken a bite of the drumstick that Yun Jian had just eaten. Once he did so, he let go of Yun Jian's hand. See, he finished the entire drumstick in no time. He did not even spare the bones. This was the drumstick that his Xiao Jian had eaten, so it was naturally delicious. Yun Jian pointed at the other 3 drumsticks in her bowl and told Si, "If you're hungry, these are all for you. I'm full." Si tilted his head to look at her, the indulgence in his gaze clear. "Chestnut, this is my Si Gich. Isn't he good-looking?" Xiao Yunju quickly introduced Si to Duan Li when he snapped out of it. Amen. The latter studied Si and nodded heavily. By then, Yun Jian had already picked up the other drumstick and took a bite. A large hand reached over again. Yun Jian turned to look and asked Si suspiciously, "Aren't you full?" Chapter 681. It wasn't until Si ate Yun Jian's drumstick that Xiao Yunju shouted at Si, "Big brother Si, you can't steal big sister's drumstick. That's big sister's drumstick. You're so naughty." Xiao Yunju immediately defended Yun Jian. As soon as Xiao Yunju finished speaking, he looked at Si and calmed down. "Big brother Si, are you still hungry?" Xiao Yunju asked. Si looked up and smiled at Xiao Yunju. "Big brother Si, if you're still hungry, you can have Xiao Zhu's portion. Big sister is hungry too," Xiao Yunju said as he pushed his drumstick in front of Si. Si smiled and pushed his drumstick back to Xiao Yunju. He said, "I'm not hungry." "Then why did you steal big sister's drumstick?" "The teacher said it's wrong to steal other people's food," Xiao Yunju said self-righteously. Si smiled awkwardly. "Hurry up and eat. I'll take you home when you're done," Yun Jian urged. Then she said, "When we get home later, I'll have to make your beds. It's already 7 o'clock. It's not good for children to sleep too late." Yun Jian's words made sense. Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duan Ye were very obedient. Later, Xiao Yunju and Duan Li even competed to see who could finish their food first. The 2 children were having a lot of fun. Duan Li had never played so happily in her life. Therefore, she kept a smile on her face as if she wanted to vent all the happiness in her life. "Big sister, big brother Si, I'm done." Xiao Yunju was the first to look up. "Me too." A bright and satisfied smile bloomed on Duan Li's delicate face. Si went to the counter to settle the bill and brought the 3 children out of Jiangxi restaurant with Yun Jian. When they got home, Qin Yuru and her brother Yun, who had just rushed back from Qin Yu's house. Yun Jian told them about Duan Li and Duan Ye. Now that Qin Yuru and Yun knew that Longmen City's new cruise was owned by Yun Jian, they did not object to Yun's adoption of Duan Li and Duan Ye. On Duan Li and Duan Li and Duan Ye. Yes, and Duan Li's and Duan Ye's and Duan Ye. In the end, Duan Li, Duan Ye, and Yunju addressed Qin Yuru as Mama Qin. Qin Yuru was a kind person. Of course, kindness and adoption depended on the occasion. If it was when her family was poor, perhaps Qin Yuru would not adopt another child after adopting Xiao Yunju. After all, if their family was so poor that they did not have enough food, they would not be able to survive if they had a few more mouths to feed. Qin Yuru was not a good person either. Now that their family's condition was improving because of Yun Jian, Qin Yuru was more than happy to adopt Duan Li and Duan Ye. Yun welcomed the children as well, but Yun only went downstairs to show her face before going back upstairs. "Brother," Yun Jian called out to Yun. Yun had just returned from Qin Yu's hometown today. "Xiao Jian, what's up?" Yun asked in return. "Brother, why are you going upstairs so early? Aren't you going to play a little longer downstairs?" Yun Jian asked. Yun blushed suddenly before he answered Yun Jian quickly. "I'm catching up on my homework. School starts tomorrow." "Xiao Jian, I'll go upstairs first." Yun went upstairs as he spoke. Staying at Qin Yu's house, Yun did not feel like going home anymore. It was only on the last day that Yun returned to Longmen City. Chapter 682. Yun Yi had always been an obedient student. Be it at home or in school, Yun Yi had always completed her homework on time. When Yun Jian first heard that Yun Yi had not completed her homework, she was stunned. Yun Jian was excellent in her studies, but she was often the one who did not complete her homework. Yun Jian basically never did the homework assigned by school. Yun Jian would start school tomorrow, but to Yun Jian, homework did not exist. It was different for Yun Yi. If Yun Jian believed that Yun Yi did not do her homework, it would be more unacceptable than the sky falling down. After all, Yun Yi's hard work was witnessed by everyone. Back then, Yun Yi had gotten into DE Senior High School from Xinjiangjin Junior High based on her own abilities. It was not without her hard work. A trip to Qin Yu's house, and Yun Yi did not even do her homework. This was unheard of. Yun Jian's lips twitched, but she did not say anything. Xiao Jian, have you guys eaten? Look at how skinny these kids are. Why don't I make you guys something to eat? Qin Yiru said as she headed to the kitchen. Mama Qin, we've eaten. We're full. Jia Jia brought us there. Xiao Yunju told Qin Yiru as she patted her tiny tummy that was devoid of any excess fat. Qin Yiru smiled at that. A life like this was something that Qin Yiru could only come by luck. So Qin Yiru was content. After they were done tidying up the girls' rooms, the group went to bed. Duan Li and Duan Yu were still young, and Duan Yu would be scared to sleep alone. So Duan Li and Duan Yu slept in the same room. After Duan Li, Duan Yu, and Xiao Yunju fell asleep, Yun Jian went back to her room to sleep as well. Yi pulled Yun Jian to his room right in front of Qin Yiru. Knowing that Yi would not do anything, Yun Jian did not argue. Once they were in Yi's room, Yi hugged her out of habit. Are you okay this afternoon? Yi's muffled voice came from the top of her head. Yun Jian had planned to sleep, but when she heard Yi's question, she snuggled into Yi's arms and answered, I'm fine. I just don't know who those people are. Yi was asking about what happened at Xiao Yunju's school in the afternoon. Someone was trying to assassinate Yun Jian. Yi's heart skipped a beat when he heard the news. Although Yi knew that Yun Jian would be fine, it was still a big deal to him. It's the Inferno Ring. It should be Tai Jingang's gang. I'll handle it, Yi told Yun Jian as he sniffed the lingering fragrance in her hair. Yun Jian fell asleep quickly in Yi's warm embrace. The next day, Yun Jian woke up in Yi's arms. After her morning run with Yi, Yun Jian went to Longmin E Junior High School with a hot egg and 2 steam buns that Qin Yiru had given her. Just as she reached the school gate, Yun Jian bumped into Zhang Xiaofeng and Chun Sini, whom she had not seen for a long time. Jian, I'm here. Chun Sini waved desperately at Yun Jian the moment she saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian smiled faintly when she saw Chun Sini and turned to go over. Jian, you're early. Chun Sini hooked her arm around Yun Jian's hand affectionately when she came over, leaving Zhang Xiaofeng alone. Hey, that's my master. Zhang Xiaofeng chased after her when he snapped out of it. Chapter 683. Yun Jian followed Chun Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng from the school gate to the school building. The winter break had been going on for more than 20 days. When they first arrived at school, they bumped into familiar faces that they could not remember. They would often bump into students from other classes in school, but they did not know each other's names. This was a common occurrence in a student's life. Students from different classes would often bump into each other when they went to the washroom. However, after 3 years of middle school, they might not even know each other's names. Yun Jian and the rest had just arrived at the school building when a handsome boy walked towards them. Hi, you guys are here so early? Ling Yichen waved as he walked towards Yun Jian and the rest. When they first met, Yun Jian did not have a good impression of Ling Yichen. However, after spending some time together, Yun Jian did not hate Lin Yichen that much. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chun Sini's opinion of Lin Yichen had also improved significantly. Go. Didn't you come earlier than us? Chun Sini waved at Ling Yichen as if she wanted to chase Lin Yichen away. Ling Yichen rubbed his head, a little embarrassed. Chun Sini continued to hold Yun Jian's hand and ran ahead. Ling Yichen used to be a playboy in school. He had the potential to hook up with girls and was more diligent in changing girls than changing clothes. However, ever since he started hanging out with Yun Jian and the rest, Ling Yichen had never had a girlfriend again. "Hey, you three, wait for me." Ling Yichen reached out and hooked his chin domineeringly. Then, he suddenly realized that Zhang Xiaofeng had already chased after Yun Jian and Chen Sini. He quickly shouted and chased after them. "I'm not waiting, so I'm not waiting. Umph." Chen Sini turned around and made a funny face at Ling Yichen. She giggled and pulled Yun Jian even faster. With a smirk, Yun Jian followed Chen Sini and her friends back to the classroom, fooling around. Ling Yichen was not in the same class as Yun Jian and the rest, so they parted ways not long after they reached the teaching block. After returning to the classroom, the homeroom teacher began to collect tuition fees. In 1999, the internet wasn't as convenient as it was now. Students in this era would bring money with them to class. Once the tuition fees were collected and the textbooks were distributed, it meant that the winter break was over and the new semester had officially begun. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were sitting in their seats with their heads down. They were a little depressed. A new semester had just begun. Some students in the class were also talking about how the winter vacation had ended before it even started. They hadn't had enough fun. Fortunately, they only received their textbooks today, and the school ended at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. The school would only officially start the next day, so the teachers did not plan to keep the students until the evening. After class in the afternoon, Zhang Xiaofeng was the most excited. "Master, I have an uncle who opened a taekwondo dojo in Longmen City. Let's practice there today," Zhang Xiaofeng said excitedly. His father had an old friend named Zhuo Wei. Zhang Xiaofeng called him uncle, and Zhang Xiaofeng was close to this uncle since he was young. Since Yun Jian was willing to teach Zhang Xiaofeng real skills, Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Chen Sini had been waiting for Yun Jian to teach Zhang Xiaofeng something after school. Now that Zhang Xiaofeng had an uncle who opened a taekwondo dojo, Zhang Xiaofeng suggested that they go there to practice. "Okay," Yun Jian nodded. Chapter 684. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at Zhang Xiaofeng's words. "Zhang Xiaofeng, well done. You want Jian Jian to compete with that uncle of yours, don't you? How dare you beat around the bush?" Chen Sini scolded Zhang Xiaofeng fervently now that she had something to use against him. Zhang Xiaofeng rubbed his nose and chuckled awkwardly when Chen Sini saw through his thoughts. As they spoke, the group had exited the school and was walking out of the school gate. Just as Yun Jian stepped out of the street and headed for the opposite street, a female voice rang behind her. However, it was not directed at Yun Jian. "Hi, Yichen, where are you guys going? Do you mind bringing me along?" The rather bold female voice came from behind. Yun Jian turned around and saw the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice was a girl around 18 years old. The girl had short hair and looked like a boy. Moreover, she was dressed in men's clothing, which made her look more like a tomboy. However, it could be seen from the contours of her face that she was a girl. She did not look like a boy in terms of appearance. "Sis Lin, why are you back?" Ling Yichen's mood brightened instantly when he saw the girl dressed like a boy. He turned to ask her, "I'm visiting my alma mater. I remember that you're in your 3rd year of junior high now, right?" The girl who was addressed as Sis Lin was called Meng Lin, and she was replying to Ling Yichen with simple words. "Yeah." Ling Yichen nodded and introduced Meng Lin to Yun Jian and the rest. "This is Sis Lin. She's our senior, I guess. She's 2 years older than us and has graduated now. She's in her 2nd year of senior high in another province." Ling Yichen could not help chuckling as he spoke and continued. "Sis Lin's results are great. She helped me a lot when I was in my 1st year of junior high." While Ling Yichen was introducing her to the others, Meng Lin was not shy. She boldly extended her hand towards Yun Jian and the rest. "Hi, everyone. If you don't mind, you can call me senior sister. I also graduated from Longmen No. 1 Middle School." With that, Meng Lin chuckled. Yun Jian slightly expressed her goodwill to Meng Lin. "All right, I heard your voices just now. You said you were going to the Taekwondo dojo, right? You don't mind bringing me along, right? Meng Lin clenched her fists. After displaying her might like a boy, she laughed out loud. Of course. He then turned to Yun Jian and said, Sister Lin has been learning judo since she was young. She's a judo expert now. Yun Jian, you too can spar. Ling Yichen and the rest were well aware of Yun Jian's strength. However, it was common for two people with some strength to spar with each other. Sure. Yun Jian smiled faintly. Her beauty was intriguing. She did not dislike Meng Lin. Meng Lin's personality was very down-to-earth, just like a boy's. This also meant that she did not scheme against each other like girls. This was a good feeling for Yun Jian. Although they had met a new Meng Lin, it did not affect them much. The group walked towards the Taekwondo dojo that Zhang Xiaofeng's family had just opened. After passing through a few streets, they passed through the downtown area. They saw Zhang Xiaofeng's Taekwondo dojo by the side of the road. Yun Jian and the rest walked into the Taekwondo dojo. Chapter 685. In this group of people who were dueling, the oldest was only around 25 years old, while the youngest was only 14 or 15 years old. Of course, there's also a group of kids from 7 to 13 or 14 years old sitting next to the dojo. It could be seen that the people who were fighting one-on-one were only limited to the oldest group of people in the Taekwondo channel. The fights were carried out in batches. The people fighting were divided into two groups based on their age. The older ones were fighting against the older ones, while the younger ones were fighting against the younger ones. At this moment, the people who were fighting were the group of people between the ages of 14 and 25. When Yun Jian entered the dojo, she saw a middle-aged man in his 40s with white hair standing next to the two people fighting. It was undeniable that this middle-aged man with white hair was Zhang Xiaofeng's uncle, Zhuo Linwei. Uncle! Zhang Xiaofeng walked over with Yun Jian and the others when he saw Zhuo Linwei. Xiaofeng, you're here? Zhuo Linwei asked when he saw Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Zhuo Linwei's dojo had only been open for a short time. It could be considered a new dojo. In fact, Zhuo Linwei was an international retired mercenary. It was no longer a secret that he was one of the best in the world. Because of his experience as a mercenary and Zhuo Linwei's own skills, he had a good grasp of Taekwondo. Therefore, when the dojo opened for business, people immediately signed up to learn it. In just a few days, the dojo was almost full. These are my friends. Zhang Xiaofeng pointed at Yun Jian and the others. His finger stopped at Yun Jian, and he introduced her to Zhuo Linwei. Uncle, this is my master, Yun Jian. I've told you about her before. She's amazing. Zhang Xiaofeng's introduction made Zhuo Linwei take a closer look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was also looking at Zhuo Linwei when she was being sized up. Zhuo Linwei had a kind of wild aura. At the same time, his rough appearance was hard to forget. Zhuo Linwei also had a special difference. He had a long black beard on his mouth, which was deliberately left there. That long beard added to Zhuo Linwei's mysteriousness, as well as his powerful strength. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The first time she saw Zhuo Linwei, her intuition told her that he was not simple. Hello. Yun Jian nodded at Zhuo Linwei. Good. Little friend, nice to meet you. Zhuo Linwei hurriedly replied. Uncle, my master is very powerful. Why don't you two spar? Zhang Xiaofeng praised Yun Jian again. He couldn't wait to see Yun Jian compete with his uncle Zhuo Linwei. A duel between two experts. This scene was absolutely spectacular. After all, Yun Jian was strong, but his uncle was not weak either. His uncle Zhuo Linwei was also a retired member of the International Mercenary Group. After Zhang Xiaofeng finished speaking, he turned to Yun Jian and said, Master, my uncle is a member of the Gale Mercenary Group. He just retired from the Gale Mercenary Group not long ago. His strength is definitely not comparable to ordinary people. If you two spar, you'll definitely benefit a lot. Zhang Xiaofeng was just anxious to see his uncle spar with Yun Jian. He knew that Yun Jian was very strong, and he also knew that Yun Jian did not want to fight with a weakling. Therefore, he revealed Zhuo Linwei's identity and tried to get Yun Jian to spar with Zhuo Linwei. Chapter 686. Just as Yin Jian heard about the Gale mercenaries, Meng Lin exclaimed in surprise, "Gale mercenaries? I know them. They're a mercenary group formed by various international alliances, and they're under the management of the International Gale Corporation. I heard that the Gale mercenaries under the Gale Corporation recruits elites from all over the world all year round, but only a handful of people can join the Gale mercenaries. Your uncle is actually from the mercenary group. That's amazing." Meng Lin had heard of the Gale mercenaries before and was dumbfounded by what she heard. To Meng Lin, she was just an ordinary student. Even though she had learned judo and was considered a judo expert, she was still intimidated by an international mercenary group like the Gale mercenaries. The biggest difference between the Gale mercenaries and the Kosha mercenaries was not the word mercenary. It was that the Gale mercenaries were under the management of the International Gale Corporation. The Kosha mercenaries was an underground organization, similar to an assassin organization like the Inhun group. The most obvious difference was that the members of the Kosha mercenaries were basically made up of assassins. Of course, the Kosha mercenaries would recruit international elites as well, but in comparison, the higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries were all assassins who had survived through brutal training, be it internationally or in their respective territories. Unless they were killed, these people were important figures who could hold their own. Zhuo Linwei, who was praised by Meng Lin, was standing beside her. He was more or less embarrassed to hear the compliment. After all, he had retired from the military and wanted to simply open a taekwondo gym in Longmen City and live out the rest of his life peacefully. Although Zhuo Linwei was a mercenary of the Gale mercenary group, he was nothing in the Gale mercenary group. There were many elites in the Gale mercenaries. Zhuo Linwei's ability to join the Gale mercenaries was proof of his ability. It was undeniable that he was very capable. However, in a place like the Gale mercenaries where talents were outstanding, someone as capable as Zhuo Linwei would be buried. This was the truth. Therefore, Zhuo Linwei was embarrassed to hear Meng Lin praise him. Meng Lin's praise made many students in the Taekwondo dojo pricked up their ears, especially the students who learned Taekwondo here. Many people present wanted to know the strength of their coaches. Meng Lin didn't have any other intentions. She was just surprised and said what she knew. However, among Zhuo Linwei's students, there was a ruffian in his 20s. He pretended to be knowledgeable, so he asked Zhuo Linwei, "Coach Zhuo, I know a little about the international mercenary groups. The Gale mercenary group is also divided into several teams. What's the name of your team?" The Gale mercenaries were indeed divided into several teams, just like the advanced special forces. Gu Junjian was the chief instructor, while Yun Jian's team Monarch was just one of the teams in the advanced special forces. The Gale mercenary group was also divided into teams in the same way. Every assassin organization or mercenary group had their own way of governing. At least, the Gale mercenaries were divided into teams of a few people. Zhuo Linwei did not hide it when he was pressed to this extent. He said, "Fury." Chapter 687. Rampage was just a small team of the Gale mercenaries. Just like a Yunjian's team Monarch, it was just a small team. However, even if Team Monarch was just a small team, it was now the spokesperson of the Advanced Special Forces. Yunjian's two missions, including the annihilation of the Inferno Ring, had completely spread Team Monarch's reputation. As soon as Zhuo Linwei spoke, the ruffian boy exclaimed in surprise. This boy clearly knew about the international mercenary groups and mercenary groups. "Oh my God, Rampage! Coach Zhuo, you're from Rampage." The ruffian guy exclaimed immediately, his tone as if he was afraid that Zhuo Linwei did not know about Rampage. "Hey, Ningbin, explain it to us. What's Rampage?" Some of the guys around him were interested and asked quickly. After all, not everyone knew about the Gale mercenaries. Perhaps everyone knew what a mercenary group was, but if it was a mercenary group with a precise name like the Gale mercenaries, most of them would not know about it. "Hey, you guys don't know about it?" Since there were girls around, especially Yun Jian and Chun Sini, the ruffian guy called Ningbin kept them in suspense and sneered. "Nonsense, tell us if you want to." Some of the guys around could not stand Ningbin, so they shouted. Ningbin was keeping them in suspense. thinking that it was very obvious and impressive that he was pretending to be knowledgeable in front of the girls. However, the other guys were naturally displeased when they saw Ningbin showing off in front of the girls. Being urged, Ningbin said proudly, "Hey, there are only 120 people in Rampage, but I heard that among these 120 people, the top 20 are all on the international rankings. Hackers, assassins, secret agents. Although they're not particularly high on the rankings, they're all kings of the elites." Ningbin's boast caused many people present to gasp. Ningbin, on the other hand, thought that he was impressive. He turned to look at Zhuo Linwei and exclaimed, "Coach Zhuo, you're really from Rampage. That's unbelievable." "I'm just one of the weakest in Rampage," Zhuo Linwei said. At this point, Zhuo Linwei smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that he was not bluffing. "You're amazing too." Ningbin flattered Zhuo Linwei. From the beginning until now, Ningbin's attitude towards Zhuo Linwei had changed drastically. Everyone present shifted their gazes to Zhuo Linwei and started talking among themselves. Zhuo Linwei, on the other hand, just as they were talking, Yun Jian's melodious voice was heard. "The Gale Mercenaries Group." As she spoke, she turned to Zhuo Linwei and asked, "Since you're from Rampage, you should know Cotton, don't you? How's he doing now?" Cotton was a top figure in the Gale Mercenary Group. He was one of the top 3 hackers in the international hacker rankings. At the same time, his strength was also widely acknowledged. Yun Jian had interacted with Cotton in her past life. Due to their dealings in firearms, they had been friends for some time. Therefore, when she heard about the Gale Mercenaries Group, she naturally asked. When Zhuo Linwei heard Yun Jian's words, he shouted in surprise, "You know Commander Cotton?" Chapter 688. Zhuo Linwei's gaze shifted from the others to Yun Jian. His eyes widened as he stared at Yun Jian in disbelief. In the Gale Mercenaries, Cotton's position was equivalent to the leader of the Gale Mercenaries. The Gale Mercenaries and the Kosha Mercenaries had different names. The boss of the Kosha Mercenaries was equivalent to the leader of the Gale Mercenaries. However, the Gale Mercenaries were formed by mercenaries from all over the world. The leader of the Gale Mercenaries was not as important as the boss of the Kosha Mercenaries. For the Kosha Mercenaries, as long as it was the boss of the Kosha Mercenaries, they would do whatever the boss said. However, the Gale Mercenaries were different. In the Gale Mercenaries, everyone in the alliance had the right to speak. In other words, the leader of the Gale Mercenaries could not do whatever he wanted. As for Cotton, he was personally invited back by the leader of the Gale Mercenaries. Cotton's power in the Gale Mercenaries was equivalent to the leader of the Gale Mercenaries. Sometimes, Cotton's words were even more effective than the leader's. That was the difference. A character like Zhuo Linwei would never have the chance to talk to Cotton. Therefore, when he heard Yun Jian call Cotton a kid, Zhuo Linwei was so surprised. After all, Yun Jian was only a 16-year-old girl. Zhuo Linwei had never mentioned Cotton before. Since Yun Jian mentioned him, it meant that she knew this person and even knew Cotton. Seeing Zhuo Linwei so surprised, everyone present was stunned. Who was Cotton? Who was the leader of the Gale Mercenaries? If Zhuo Linwei, who had retired from the Gale Mercenaries, was so surprised, then this person was definitely not simple. For a moment, everyone present turned to look at Yun Jian. Who was Cotton? Ningbin suddenly felt that Yun Jian had stolen his limelight. Although he was unhappy, Ningbin would not insult in front of Yun Jian. There was no other reason except that Ningbin pretended to know a lot in front of Yun Jian. If it weren't for the 2 girls, Yun Jian and Chun Sini, he probably wouldn't even bother to say anything one-sided. Yun Jian and Chun Sini were both good-looking. In comparison, Yun Jian was prettier, so Ningbin had long taken a fancy to her and wanted to show off himself. Ningbin's question was actually directed at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian didn't even look at Ningbin. She looked at Zhuo Linwei and answered his question, "Yes, I do." Not only did they know each other, but when Yun Jian first entered the hacker world, Cotton could be considered her elder. In the end, in less than 2 months, she cracked the broken program in Cotton's hands and made a mess of it. Cotton had to pay a huge price for it. He lost $1 billion. Of course, $1 billion was nothing to Cotton. Cotton wasn't angry. Later on, Yun Jian worked with Cotton on a batch of firearms business. Of course, the time they spent together was only a few days. Yun Jian knew a lot of people, and Cotton was just one of them. Yun Jian's simple sentence stunned Zhuo Linwei. Even as a member of the Gale mercenary group, he didn't have the ability to meet Cotton, but Yun Jian actually knew Cotton. Ning Bin, who was standing at the side, was very unhappy with the feeling of being ignored. He patiently asked Yun Jian, "Little beauty, who is Cotton? Can you tell me?" As soon as Ning Bin finished speaking, Zhuo Linwei answered for Yun Jian, "Cotton is the leader of our Gale mercenary group. His position is even higher than our leader. A small character like me doesn't even have the right to meet him." Everyone gasped when they heard Zhuo Linwei's words. Chapter 689. Zhuo Linwei looked at Yun Jian in surprise. He took 2 deep breaths and asked, "Young friend, may I ask who you are?" The word yes was delayed for a long time. It was enough to show Zhuo Linwei's surprise. Hearing Zhuo Linwei's words, everyone present stared at Yun Jian, as if they wanted to stare a big hole in Yun Jian's body. Yun Jian just gently pursed her lips. Her delicate and perfect little face quickly revealed a bright smile. She answered Zhuo Linwei, "My name is Yun Jian." Didn't Zhang Xiaofeng mention it before? Yun Jian's words made Zhuo Linwei frown. Of course, Zhuo Linwei didn't intend to hear Yun Jian's true identity from her. After all, there were so many people present. Even if Yun Jian wanted to say it, she couldn't say it in front of so many people. Of course, after Yun Jian said it, many people present felt that it was meaningless. TSK, who does she think she is? I think she's just bragging. A boy couldn't help but shout, "Bragging, bragging, bragging my ass. If you don't have the ability, why don't you brag for me too?" When Zhang Xiaofeng heard it, he quickly jumped out to speak for Yun Jian. At the same time, he fiercely scolded the boy. That boy was scared by Zhang Xiaofeng's aggressive words. Of course, perhaps because he knew the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhuo Linwei, the boy who scolded Yun Jian just now didn't dare to say anything. "Hee, I didn't expect you to be so pleasing to the eye." When Chen Sini saw Zhang Xiaofeng speaking for Yun Jian, she couldn't help but praise Zhang Xiaofeng. "Better than you." Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini bickered. Then, he ran over to Yun Jian. Cough, cough. Zhuo Linwei coughed softly, forced to look at Yun Jian squarely. At this moment, Zhuo Linwei really wanted to spar with Yun Jian. "Yichen, your friends are really interesting." Meng Lin also stepped forward and said. Then, she reached out her hand to stroke her short hair. Like a boy, she extended her hand to Yun Jian and said, "Beauty, you don't mind being friends with me, right? Let's get to know each other again. My name is Meng Lin. I'm your senior from 2 years ago." Meng Lin reached out to Yun Jian boldly. Everyone liked to make friends with the strong, and Meng Lin was no exception. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at the same time and reached out her hand. Yun Jian. Yun Jian stretched out her hand and repeated her name to Meng Lin. It could be considered that she intended to befriend Meng Lin. To be honest, Yun Jian quite liked bold and manly women like Meng Lin. From the beginning, Yun Jian had a good impression of Meng Lin. "Hey, are you guys done talking? Xiaofeng said that you're very strong. If it's convenient, why don't you spar with me?" Zhuo Linwei liked to spar. To him, challenging the strong was also one of life's greatest pleasures. Therefore, he extended his hand to Yun Jian to express his thoughts. "That's right. Master, why don't you spar with my uncle? Besides, everyone wants to see what you're capable of, right?" Zhang Xiaofeng did not forget his initial goal. He quickly spoke to Yun Jian with a hint of pleading in his tone. As soon as Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, most of the people present agreed. Indeed, most of the people present wanted to see Yun Jian's strength. After all, to most of them, they were waiting for a good show. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.